Chapter 2585. After leaving the Celestial Ascension Pool, Duan Lingtian walked around for a long time. However, he still could not find his way. He did not see any living beings along the way. Currently, he was on his way to Bloody Spectre City. I thought I'd be able to find someone nearby and ask for directions. However, it seems like I was too naive. After walking around for a long time, I still can't find anyone. Duan Lingtian shook his head and returned to the Celestial Ascension Pool. Initially, Duan Lingtian had planned to ask the Silverworm Army to lead the way. However, after thinking about it for a while, he decided against it. After all, I've killed someone from the Silverworm Army. If I expose my whereabouts and the Silverworm Army finds out I've gone to Bloody Spectre City, they won't let me off so easily. Although Duan Lingtian had killed a centurion of the Silverworm Army earlier, he was still confident in his strength. However, he was well aware of his own limitations. If the Silverworm Army sent someone stronger, he might not be a match for them. Perhaps, he might even be able to defeat the centurion of the Silverworm Army. However, what about the commander of the Silverworm Army? Moreover, the Silverworm Army was under the command of Bloody Spectre City. The commander of the Silverworm Army was even stronger than the city governor of Bloody Spectre City. Forget it. I'll wait here for now. When they bring those ascenders out of the Celestial Ascension Pool and return to the Silver Dragon Army's camp, I will follow them and take a look. Duan Lingtian made up his mind. Since the Silverworm Army is under the command of Bloody Spectre City, their camp shouldn't be far from Bloody Spectre City. Now that I'm no longer devouring the energy in the Celestial Ascension Pool, the group of ascenders who have ascended to the spirit overarching heaven should have become heavenly celestials by now, right? Duan Lingtian thought to himself. However, I really didn't expect that following Third Uncle's advice and tempering the 99 heaven veins in my body would bring me such great benefits. Currently, the celestial origin energy in my body that has passed through the 99 heavenly veins is comparable to the assist-type divine ability, the elementary devouring tactic. It had to be said that this was a pleasant surprise for Duan Lingtian. Just this point alone had allowed his strength to rise by 2 whole levels. Furthermore, I have a feeling that the benefits of refining the 99 heavenly veins will definitely be more than this. Duan Lingtian thought to himself. Now that I've ascended to a Devata realm, the most important thing now is to raise my cultivation base as soon as possible. After all, I only have 1,000 years. Duan Lingtian's heart sank when he recalled what Xia Jie from the Divine Offering Land had said to him. According to Xia Jie, 1,000 years later, when the incident at the World of Divine Offering was over, Ke would be forced by her father to marry Yin Qing Yen. Because of this, the only thing on his mind right now was how to improve his strength. He had never thought about anything else, nor did he intend to think about it. Let's go to Bloody Spectre City first and find out where the best cultivation environment is in the vicinity. Also, I'll find out where I can get cultivation resources from. Duan Lingtian thought to himself. This was the reason Duan Lingtian wanted to go to Bloody Spectre City. Since he had just arrived in the spirit overarching heaven, he could not bring cultivation resources from the mundane realms to the Devata realm. For this reason, he was completely broke. Naturally, he knew he had no cultivation resources. Even if he brought cultivation resources from the mundane realms, such as Saint Stones, to the Devata realm, they would not be of any help to him. The heaven and earth spirit energy in the Saint Stones was from the mundane realms, so it would not help him improve his celestial origin energy. Moreover, since he had just arrived in the spirit overarching heaven, he did not have any cultivation resources. Duan Lingtian knew nothing about the spirit overarching heaven. The most important thing now was to go to Bloody Spectre City to gather information. Only then could he proceed to the next step. I shouldn't have to wait too long. Outside the Celestial Ascension Pool, Duan Lingtian hovered above the clouds. His gaze pierced through the clouds as he looked down. About 15 minutes later, he's here. A familiar figure appeared in Duan Lingtian's line of sight. It was none other than Wang Wei, the decurion of the Silverworm Army. It was none other than Wang Wei, the decurion of the Silverworm army, whom Duan Lingtian had crippled. At this moment, Wang Wei was leading a group of ascenders out of the celestial ascension pool toward the east. Since Wang Wei was here, Duan Lingtian made his move as well. Wang Wei led the group of ascenders and headed towards the Silverworm army's campsite. As he hurried, he gnashed his teeth and swore in his heart, "I hope that the Chiliarch will report this matter to the commander after finding out about today's matter. Once Lord Commander learns about this matter, he'll definitely hunt that person down, even if he has to dig 3 feet into the ground." Wang Wei's eyes flashed fiercely when he thought about this. Although Wang Wei did not vent his anger on the group of ascenders behind him from the beginning until the end, Wang Wei did not vent his anger on them. However, the group of ascenders was affected by Wang Wei's emotions. They did not even dare to breathe loudly. About half an hour later, a small black dot appeared in Duan Lingtian's line of sight. "It's a city. It must be Bloody Spectre City," Duan Lingtian speculated inwardly as he looked at the small black dot in the distance. Duan Lingtian's guess was proven correct. Duan Lingtian followed Wang Wei and the others as they made their way to the small black dot. Soon after, the small black dot grew larger and larger before it transformed into a city that resembled a gigantic beast. The walls around the city were all made of blood-red bricks, giving people a visual shock as if they were dyed in blood. "That's Bloody Spectre City. I'm bringing you to the Silverworm Army's camp." The Silverworm Army is one of the 2 armies under Bloody Spectre City's command. The commander of the Silverworm Army reports directly to the city governor of Bloody Spectre City. Wang Wei, who had been following Duan Lingtian along the way, suddenly stopped and turned around to look at the group of ascenders behind him. "We won't be heading to Bloody Spectre City, since the Silverworm Army's camp isn't in Bloody Spectre City." After Wang Wei finished speaking, he led the group of ascenders toward the northeast of Bloody Spectre City. Bloody Spectre City. Although Duan Lingtian was hiding behind the clouds and was quite a distance away from Wang Wei, he could still clearly hear Wang Wei's words, that he did not intentionally lower his voice. After listening to Wang Wei's words, he was certain of his destination. The blood-stained city in front of him was his destination. Bloody Spectre City. Bloody Spectre City was the first city Duan Lingtian had visited since he arrived in the Devata realm. Outside Bloody Spectre City, Duan Lingtian could see many celestials entering and exiting the city. It was bustling with activity. At this moment, Duan Lingtian followed the crowd and entered Bloody Spectre City. He looked like a travel-worn celestial who was about to enter Bloody Spectre City to have a rest. After entering Bloody Spectre City, Duan Lingtian began to look around. After all, this was the first city he had visited since he arrived in the Devata realm. Therefore, he decided to take a closer look at the city. At the very least, he wanted to leave an impression on the city, so that he could reminisce about it in the future. "Dear customer, I originally planned to sell this dark autumn grass for 12 primitive celestial stones. Since it's getting late, I'll sell it to you for 10 primitive celestial stones, so that I can leave as soon as possible." After walking around Bloody Spectre City for a long time, Duan Lingtian finally arrived at a street filled with stalls. At this moment, a stall owner's voice rang in his ears. "Primitive celestial stones? Celestial stones?" Duan Lingtian looked over towards the source of the voice, and he saw a person withdraw 10 light green stones before passing them over to the stall owner that spoke. Following that, the stall owner handed a stalk of herb to the person. "So this is the currency in the Devata realm? It's similar to the saint stones that can be used to cultivate?" When Duan Lingtian was still in the mundane realm, Xian Yuanji had mentioned the celestial stones as the currency in the Devata realm. However, since he had never seen a celestial stone before, he had no idea what a celestial stone was. However, now that he had witnessed the transactions in the Devata realm, he knew what a celestial stone looked like. "These are celestial stones?" The spatial ring left behind by the centurion of the Silverworm army seems to have many celestial stones as well. With this thought in mind, Duan Lingtian immersed his consciousness into the spatial ring in his hand. He had obtained this spatial ring from the centurion of the Silverworm army, whom he had killed. After the centurion's death, He had used his blood to claim ownership of the spatial ring. At this moment, there was a saber and a sword lying quietly in the space inside the spatial ring. The saber and the sword were celestial weapons from the 2 centurions of the Silverworm army. Apart from the 2 celestial weapons, there were also 2 piles of green stones in the space inside the spatial ring. One of the piles had more stones, but the color was lighter. The other pile had fewer stones, but the color was darker. This pile has more stones. They're primitive celestial stones. It was not difficult for Duan Lingtian to identify the primitive celestial stones in the spatial ring based on the primitive celestial stones he had seen earlier. Initially, I thought it would be inconvenient for me to go to the most well-informed restaurant since I don't have the currency in the Devata realm. After all, I don't have the money to pay the bill. But now it would seem that I was thinking too much. I'd forgotten that the spatial ring in my hand came from the centurion of the Silverworm army, and as a centurion of the Silverworm army, he would surely possess a great amount of wealth. Chapter 2586. After staying in the restaurant for half a day, Duan Lingtian managed to eavesdrop on the conversations of the customers. However, he discovered that there was nothing he could do. After staying in the restaurant for half a day, he did not learn anything of value. No one mentioned the things that he needed to know about the most important things in the world. That's true. I only want to know the basics. These people are either natives of the Devata realms, or celestials who have ascended to the Devata realms for a long time. Naturally, they won't talk about the basics to help me, who has just ascended to the Devata realms. With this thought in mind, Duan Lingtian decided not to waste his time in the restaurant. He called the waiter over and said, "Waiter, bring me a quiet room." He had thought of other ways to obtain information. "Sir, the minimum charge for a room in our restaurant is 10 primitive celestial stones. You're alone." As the waiter introduced the room to Duan Lingtian, he tried to persuade Duan Lingtian that there was no need for him to use a room. However, before he could finish speaking, Duan Lingtian interrupted him. Duan Lingtian casually tossed a handful of primitive celestial stones on the table and said, "Here's the extra." "Thank you, sir." "Thank you." The waiter's eyes lit up when he saw there were at least 30 primitive celestial stones on the table. After he put the primitive celestial stones away, he respectfully invited Duan Lingtian into a room. Moreover, according to Duan Lingtian's request, he specially found a quiet room for Duan Lingtian. "Sir, is there anything else you would like to eat?" After receiving the tip from Duan Lingtian, the waiter's attitude toward Duan Lingtian had become much warmer. He was just short of calling Duan Lingtian master in a flattering manner. "There's no hurry to eat. I have some questions for you, so I'll take up a little of your time." Duan Lingtian's eyes flashed as he said bluntly. This was another way he had thought of to obtain information. He questioned the waiter in front of him, trying his best to pry out everything he wanted to know from him. "Sir, what would you like to ask?" Little Fool asked with a smile. "If I'm not mistaken, you should be a native of the spirit overarching heaven, right?" Duan Lingtian asked. He had long since discovered that Little Fool was not even a heavenly immortal. In that case, there was only one possibility. This waiter was a native of the spirit overarching heaven. When Duan Lingtian was still in the mundane realm, he had heard Xian Yuanji, a 9-tribulation bodiless celestial from the Yellow Arch Mansion, mention the natives of the Devata realms. The natives of the Devata realms were the descendants of celestials who had ascended to the Devata realms. For this reason, the natives' cultivation bases were not even at the heavenly celestial stage. After all, there was no such thing as ascension. They had been in the Devata realms since they were infants. Since they were born in the Devata realms, the natives of the Devata realms were blessed by the heavens. Their cultivation speed was much faster than those in the mundane realms. This was because the heaven and earth spirit energy in the Devata realms was much more abundant than in the mundane realms. Apart from that, the cultivation resources in the Devata realms were also much better than those in the mundane realms. Under such circumstances, unless one was a complete fool, one's cultivation speed would not be slow. "Yes," the waiter nodded. "I have a question for you. What's the best place to cultivate in the area around Bloody Spectre City?" Duan Lingtian asked. Right now, he only wanted to increase his strength as soon as possible. Therefore, he also hoped to find an excellent cultivation environment as soon as possible, so that he could stay there and cultivate. A good cultivation environment had a great effect on one's cultivation speed. Of course, he also knew his own limits. With his current strength, it was fine for him to stay in the area around Bloody Spectre City for the time being. He did not know what dangers he would encounter if he ventured out. After all, there were many powerhouses in the Devata realms who were stronger than him. With his current strength, he would be in great danger if he left the area around Bloody Spectre City without careful consideration. If it was in the past, he would not mind taking a risk. However, he felt there was no need for him to take such a risk. Currently, he had too many things to worry about. If something were to happen to him, his wife, family, and friends would be destroyed as well. Since you asked this question, it means you're not from Bloody Spectre City. The best place to cultivate in the area around Bloody Spectre City is undoubtedly the city governor's cultivation room. There's a grand spirit gathering formation there that's connected to the cores of the two largest celestial stone veins near Bloody Spectre City. Due to this, the heaven and earth spirit energy there is terrifyingly dense. The waiter said confidently. Secondly, the tents of the commanders and captains of the Black Dragon Army and the Silverworm Army are located. Their tents are located closest to the cores of the two celestial stone veins. Due to the spirit gathering formation, the heaven and earth spirit energy is sealed there as well. After that, there's the Golden Serpent Guard's cultivation room in the city governor's estate. It's located close to the city governor's personal cultivation room. A hint of dread flashed in the waiter's eyes when he mentioned the Golden Serpent Guards. It was as though the Golden Serpent Guards were terrifying existences. What's the Golden Serpent Guards? Duan Lingtian asked curiously. The Golden Serpent Guards are the city master's personal guards. Normally, their duty is to protect the city master and the city master's family. Compared to the Black Dragon Army and Silver Dragon Army, which are both under the city master's mansion, which have an army of 10,000 people, the Golden Serpent Guards only have 100 people. However, all of them are experts. They're all Golden Serpent Guards, the waiter said solemnly. It's said that the weakest Golden Serpent Guards are Golden Celestials. The weakest Golden Celestials are Golden Celestials. Duan Lingtian could not help but inwardly gasp when he heard the waiter's words. After all, even the centurion of the Silverworm Army, whom he had interacted with before, had yet to become a Golden Celestial. However, the waiter was telling him that the city governor's estate was a Golden Serpent Guards. The weakest Golden Serpent Guards, serving the city governor of Bloody Spectre City, were Golden Celestials? Doesn't this mean even the centurion of the Silverworm Army is weaker than anyone in the Golden Serpent Guards? Even the centurion of the Silverworm Army isn't qualified to join the Golden Serpent Guards? Duan Lingtian asked. Of course, the waiter said matter-of-factly. Let's not talk about how a centurion of the Silver Dragon Army doesn't have the qualifications to join the Golden Snake Guards. Even if he has the qualifications, he can't join the Golden Snake Guards just because he wants to. It's said that not only does one have to be strong enough to join the Golden Serpent Guards, but there are other stringent requirements as well. If one can't meet the stringent requirements, one won't be able to join the Golden Serpent Guards, even if they're strong enough. The waiter continued to explain. Duan Lingtian nodded. At this moment, Duan Lingtian had learned from the waiter about the best places to cultivate in the vicinity of Bloody Spectre City. The cultivation room of the city governor of Bloody Spectre City was the best place to cultivate. However, Duan Lingtian knew it was impossible for him to cultivate in the cultivation room, unless he was strong enough to defeat the city governor of Bloody Spectre City and snatch the cultivation room from the city governor of Bloody Spectre City. Apart from the cultivation room of the city governor of Bloody Spectre City, the tents of the commanders of the Silverworm Army and the captains of the Black Dragon Army, and the cultivation room of the Golden Serpent Guards were located in the city governor's estate. It seems like all of them are rather troublesome. Duan Lingtian smiled wryly. Apart from the 3 places with better cultivation conditions, The other two places with better cultivation conditions are the other places in the city governor's estate, and the tents of the Silverworm Army and the Black Dragon Army. The waiter added. Without waiting for Duan Lingtian's reply, the waiter looked at the door of the private room and said, "Sir, if you don't have any other questions, I'll take my leave first. If I don't leave now, the innkeeper will definitely be angry. He might not even give me this month's salary. I still have many questions to ask." Just as the waiter was about to leave, Duan Lingtian raised his hand and threw a celestial stone at the waiter. A mediocre celestial stone. When Duan Lingtian tossed the celestial stone into the air, the waiter hastily caught the celestial stone with an excited expression on his face. After all, even his monthly salary was only 30 low-grade celestial stones. This mediocre celestial stone was equivalent to 100 primitive celestial stones. It was more than 3 months of his salary. How many primitive celestial stones can be exchanged for a mediocre celestial stone? Duan Lingtian asked. The celestial stone he threw out was one of the few celestial stones in his spatial ring. He had long guessed it was a mediocre celestial stone. 100, the waiter replied. After a moment, he regained his senses. After replying to Duan Lingtian, he regained his senses and looked at Duan Lingtian strangely. After all, it was common knowledge in the spirit overarching heaven that a mediocre celestial stone was equivalent to 100 primitive celestial stones. In fact, it was common knowledge in all Devata realms. However, Duan Lingtian did not know this? Perhaps he's just messing around. The waiter could not help but think to himself. However, when Duan Lingtian continued to ask questions that were similar to common sense, the waiter cooperated and answered. At the same time, he was puzzled. He wondered to himself, why does he seem like an ascender who has just ascended to the spirit overarching heaven? Naturally, as soon as this thought appeared in Duan Lingtian's mind, he suppressed it. After all, he did not think it was possible. After all, those who had ascended to the celestial ascension pool near Bloody Spectre City would be recruited by the Black Dragon Army and the Silverworm Army to serve in the two camps. Even if they were not recruited, it was impossible for them to have so many celestial stones. It was impossible for a person who had just ascended to a Devata realm to obtain so many celestial stones, even if they had become a golden celestial. Chapter 2587. After asking all the questions he wanted to ask, Duan Lingtian asked the waiter to leave. After the waiter left, the room became exceptionally quiet in an instant. Now, even if one were to throw a needle on the ground, one might be able to hear the clear sound of it hitting the ground. According to the waiter, the best places to cultivate are the city governor's estate, the Black Dragon Army's camp, and the Silverworm Army's camp. Duan Lingtian sat in front of the table. Although he seemed calm, his heart was not calm at all. In other words, if I want to have a good cultivation environment, I can only go to these 3 places. However, since I've killed the centurion of the Silverworm Army, as soon as I arrived in the spirit overarching heaven, the Silverworm Army's camp won't welcome me. Apart from a few people who want me dead, most of the Silverworm Army want to obtain the divine ability and the sovereign heart sword that's similar to a celestial method. Duan Lingtian thought to himself. Duan Lingtian thought to himself. While Duan Lingtian was deep in thought in the restaurant's private room, the Silverworm Army's camp was not calm at all. Zhong Gang was killed by a Crimson Moon Heavenly Celestial? Yang Kongping, one of the 10 captains in the Silverworm Army, was stunned when he heard the report from his centurion, Chai Ming, about what had happened at one of the celestial ascension pools that the Silverworm Army was in charge of. A mere Crimson Moon Heavenly Celestial, who had just ascended to the spirit overarching heaven from the mundane realm, had actually killed a centurion of the Silverworm Army in front of a centurion and 8 decurions? Yes. When Chai Ming saw that Yang Kongping did not seem to believe him, he quickly added, Lord Chiliarch, I've seen everything with my own eyes. If you don't believe me, you can ask the 8 decanists to verify it. Chai Ming was one of the 2 centurions of the Silverworm Army, whom Duan Lingtian had met at the Celestial Ascension Pool earlier. The tall and majestic young man standing in front of Chai Ming was the direct superior of Chai Ming and Zhong Gang, the centurion of the Silverworm army, who looked like a young man whom Duan Ling Tian had killed earlier. He was Yang Kongping, a captain of the Silverworm army. There were only a total of 10 Kiliarchs in the Silverworm army, and all of them were golden immortals. They were not something heavenly immortals could compare to. Chai Ming, you've been my subordinate for many years. Why would I doubt your words? I'm just slightly shocked, and wanted to confirm it from you. Yang Kongping muttered to himself. If that's the case, the person who had just ascended to the celestial ascension realm must have obtained a heavenly legacy in the mundane realm. Not only a celestial, but he also a celestial, and divine celestial. When he reached the end of his sentence, a hint of desire and greed could be seen in the depths of his eyes. Although he was a golden celestial, and had cultivated powerful celestial methods and divine abilities, his celestial methods and divine abilities were only slightly stronger than the most ordinary celestial methods and divine abilities in the Devata realms. They were nothing compared to the celestial methods that the person Chai Ming had mentioned had mastered. Also, you said that the person who had just ascended was able to snatch the celestial weapon from you? Moreover, from the beginning until the end, you couldn't do anything and could only watch as your celestial weapon was snatched away? Yang Kongping asked again. Yes. Chai Ming still felt a lingering fear when he recalled what had happened. The person who had just ascended is not simple. Yang Kongping's eyes flashed as he looked at Chai Ming and said in a deep voice, Chai Ming, keep the 8 Decurions in check. Don't let them spread any news about the person who had just ascended to the celestial ascension realm. I'll report this to Lord Commander now. Yang Kongping did not wait for Chai Ming's reply before he left. At this moment, Duan Ling Tian was, naturally, unaware of what was happening in the Silverworm Army's camp. He had just left the restaurant, and was strolling on the streets of Bloody Spectre City. However, Duan Ling Tian did not seem to hear the commotion at all. He seemed to be lost in his own thoughts as he strolled along the path. It was as though he had lost his soul. The city governor's estate, the Black Dragon Army's camp. Duan Ling Tian strolled on the streets as though he had lost his soul, because he was trying to think of a way to enter the city governor's estate, or the Black Dragon Army's camp. Unknowingly, Duan Ling Tian had arrived at the main road of Bloody Spectre City. This main road was incomparably spacious, and there was an endless stream of carriages. Naturally, it was noisy as well. Duan Ling Tian's sudden appearance on the main road of Bloody Spectre City did not attract much attention. In fact, not many people even spared him a glance. There were only a few people who glanced at him. They were all young ladies. However, after glancing at him, they averted their gazes shyly, not daring to look at him anymore. All of a sudden, Duan Ling Tian, who was walking in a daze on the central street of Bloody Spectre City, suddenly came to a halt, as though he had sensed something. The reason he was like this was because the noise and clamor in the surroundings had vanished without a trace in an instant. It was as though someone was strangling him, rendering him unable to make a sound. He could clearly see that within his field of vision, there was a dense stream of people. However, at this moment, the atmosphere was strangely quiet. They seemed to be looking behind me? When Duan Ling Tian came to a halt, his gaze landed on the group of people who had also stopped in front of him. He discovered that these people were looking behind him. What's going on? Why can't they make a sound? Out of curiosity, Duan Ling Tian turned around. The sound of his robe fluttering in the wind could be heard clearly in this quiet and strange environment. When Duan Ling Tian turned around, his gaze landed on a graceful curve. A hint of amazement could be seen in the depths of his eyes, as he sighed in his heart from the bottom of his heart. What a beautiful woman! At this moment, Duan Ling Tian finally realized the reason why the entire street was quiet and no longer noisy. It was because of the woman in front of him. The woman was dressed in a light purple dress. Her eyebrows were like green feathers, her skin was as fair as snow, and her waist was slim. Although half of her face was covered by a thin veil, her pair of clear and cold autumn eyes, as well as her elegant and refined temperament, was enough to make everything around her pale in comparison. In addition, Although her face was covered by the veil, it was partially covered. However, because the veil was half transparent, the outline of her face was faintly discernible. One could vaguely make out the perfect curve of her face. People could not help but have the urge to lift the veil and take a look at the beautiful face under the veil. One could imagine how charming she was even with the veil on her face. If she were to remove the veil, how devastatingly beautiful would her cheeks be without the veil restraining them? The woman moved slightly. Wherever she passed, the crowd silently made a path for her. At this moment on this street, regardless of whether it was a man or a woman, they were all looking at this woman with infatuation. It was as if the woman had some kind of special magic. If it was any other time, seeing such a beautiful woman, many men would definitely have bad thoughts. However, at this moment, the group of men present did not have a strange look in their eyes. When they looked at the woman, other than a temporary look of amazement, there was only a look of reverence left in their eyes. It was as if this woman was some kind of sacred existence, high and mighty, and could not be profaned. Duan Lingtian was the only one who turned around and continued to move forward after a flash of amazement appeared in his eyes. The woman who was originally walking on the street with a cold gaze, ignoring everything around her, looked at Duan Lingtian the moment he turned around and left. She glanced at Duan Lingtian. However, it was only a glance. In this remote town, there is actually someone who is not affected by my cultivation method? The moment the woman looked at Duan Lingtian's back, a ripple appeared in her heart. However, as the woman's gaze became cold again, the ripple in her heart immediately calmed down. This woman is not simple. Duan Lingtian's expression was solemn when he turned around and continued to move forward. His heart was heavy as well. The reason why she can make the entire street quiet down and attract everyone's attention is not only because of her beauty and temperament, but also because of the aura that she emits. Fortunately, my soul is protected by the defective metal piece. Otherwise, I would have been affected by that aura as well. That aura is similar to a soul attack, but it is not a soul attack because it does not have any offensive properties. It can only affect one's mind temporarily by infecting one's soul and causing one to fall into a state of confusion. After walking for a while, Duan Lingtian changed his path and finally relaxed. At the same time, he heaved a long sigh of relief. That woman in the purple dress gave him an extremely dangerous feeling. At the very least, he was no match for her at this moment. Have you heard? A captain of the Black Dragon Army has died. Yes. It's said that the captain of the Black Dragon Army died in the mountains south of Bloody Spectre City. It's suspected that he accidentally entered the little world that has been listed as a forbidden area in Bloody Spectre City for generations. Today, the camp of the Black Dragon Army released a message. If anyone can bring back the identity token of that Chiliarch of the Black Dragon Army, they can replace the dead Chiliarch of the Black Dragon Army and become the new Chiliarch. Chapter 2588. Black Dragon Army? Captain. Duan Lingtian's eyes lit up when he heard the conversation between the two passers-by. He had been racking his brains for a way to enter the city governor's estate and the Black Dragon Army's camp. Now that he heard the conversation between the two passers-by, he saw an opportunity. Although it was not difficult to join the Black Dragon Army, that was only true for those who had just ascended to the spirit overarching heaven from the mundane realm. Usually, those who had ascended to the spirit overarching heaven would be brought to the Black Dragon Army's camp to report to the Black Dragon Army. Once their cultivation base reached a certain level, they would be able to join the Black Dragon Army and become a member. At that time, they would no longer have to serve in the army. They would only have to complete their daily tasks and would have more time to cultivate. Apart from that, the Black Dragon Army did not recruit outsiders. Duan Lingtian had learned about this from the waiter in the restaurant. Both of you please wait. Duan Lingtian turned around and caught up with the two passers-by in just a few steps. He blocked their path and asked curiously when they came to a halt. What's the little world that both of you were talking about? Who are you? Why are you blocking our way? You're too rude. No one would be happy to be stopped by a stranger when they were walking normally. Both of you, I just have a few questions. Duan Lingtian did not mind their displeasure. He raised his hand and took out 2 mediocre celestial stones from his spatial ring. Here are 2 mediocre celestial stones. Take one each as the reward for answering my questions. The 2 passers-by's eyes lit up as soon as Duan Lingtian took out the mediocre celestial stones. Upon hearing Duan Lingtian's words, they immediately snatched the mediocre celestial stones from Duan Lingtian's hands. Moreover, their attitudes toward Duan Lingtian had changed drastically. Brother, please ask away if you have any questions. We promise to tell you everything we know. The 2 passers-by looked at Duan Lingtian with smiles on their faces. It was as though they were 2 different people now. Duan Lingtian sighed inwardly. Money makes the world go round. He did not stand on ceremony with the 2 of them and directly asked, "My question is still the same. What's the little world that both of you mentioned?" A little world is an independent space in the Devata realms that can be created by powerhouses who have reached a certain level of strength. One of the passers-by Lingtian answered Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian asked, "Brother, you've never heard of the little world?" Duan Lingtian did not answer the passers-by. Duan Lingtian heard Duan Lingtian's words. Little worlds, is as little Devata realms void heaven devouring heaven Devata, is heaven divine realms realm? Duan Lingtian. S. Celestial Devis celestial Devis celestial devs, celestial devs. S2. S is little Lingtian's SS littles. What's the strength of a powerhouse to create a little world? Duan Lingtian asked. I'm not too sure about that. The passers-by had accepted Duan Lingtian's celestial stones, so he was not angry at Duan Lingtian's lack of response. However, I've heard that even great overarching golden celestials aren't capable of creating a little world in the Devata realms. It's not just great overarching golden celestials. It's said that even those who are stronger than great overarching golden celestials aren't capable of creating a little world. The passers-by chimed in. Duan Lingtian nodded. Then, he changed the topic and asked, "Earlier, you said one of the Black Dragon Army's captains accidentally entered the little world located in the mountain range south of Bloody Spectre City, right? Moreover, that minor world has been listed as a forbidden ground by Bloody Spectre City for generations?" Yes. One of the passers-by nodded and said, "That little world has existed for a long time in the mountain range south of Bloody Spectre City. It has a history of at least 10,000 years. Many people have entered the little world over the past 10,000 years, but no one has ever come out alive. As the little world's reputation spread, many powerhouses from the Nine Spectres County and outside of the Nine Spectres County came to Bloody Spectre City to explore the little world. However, none of them came out alive after entering the little world. Many of them are great overarching golden celestials. In fact, it's said that many of them who are stronger than great overarching golden celestials have disappeared after entering the little world. For this reason, the little world has been a forbidden area in Bloody Spectre City for generations." When the passers-by reached the end of his sentence, he looked at Duan Lingtian in shock and asked, "Brother, don't tell me you're thinking of going to the little world. If you are, you have to reconsider. That's not a good place. It's a deadly place." "That's right." The other passers-by chimed in. "The space near the valley where the little world is located is unstable. In the past 10,000 years of Bloody Spectre City's history, there have been more than 10 people who were forcefully sent into the little world by the spatial turbulence when they passed by that area and disappeared without a trace. This includes the captain of the Black Dragon Army. It's suspected that he was sent into the little world by the spatial turbulence when he went to the little world, and he died. Most people don't know if they're dead or alive when they enter the little world. However, the captain of the Black Dragon Army's soul pearl was stored in the Black Dragon Army. Since the Black Dragon Army said he's dead, his soul pearl must have shattered as well." The 2 passers-by patiently explained to Duan Lingtian. Not only that, but they also patiently answered Duan Lingtian's questions. From the beginning until the end, they did not show any signs of impatience. "Thank you, both of you." In the end, there was nothing else for Duan Lingtian to ask. He bade farewell to the two passers-by, before he turned around and left. Take care, brother. The two passers-by smiled as they watched Duan Lingtian leave. After parting ways with the two passers-by, Duan Lingtian continued to walk aimlessly on the streets of Bloody Spectre City. However, he was not thinking about how to enter the Black Dragon Army's camp or the city governor's mansion. Instead, he was thinking about the little world in the mountain ridge to the south of Bloody Spectre City. That small world has already been discovered for 10,000 years, but no one has ever come out alive. This is enough to show that it is extremely dangerous inside. It seems like it's not realistic to enter the little world to obtain the identity token of a captain of the Black Dragon Army and become a captain of the Black Dragon Army. Duan Lingtian knew his limits. Although it was said that riches came with risks, he knew his limits. For the past 10,000 years, many people who were stronger than him had entered the little world, but none of them had come out alive. He did not think his luck was better than theirs. However, I should go and take a look. It's fine if I don't know anything about it. Since I know about it, I should go and take a look. Also, perhaps when the Chiliarch of the Black Dragon Army was sucked into that small world, he also happened to lose his identity token. With this thought in mind, Duan Lingtian decided to go to the mountain ridge to the south of Bloody Spectre City to take a look at the entrance of the little world. He wanted to see if he could find the identity token of a captain of the Black Dragon Army. Just as Duan Lingtian was about to leave Bloody Spectre City and head south, at this moment, another uninvited guest appeared in the mountains south of Bloody Spectre City. This uninvited guest was none other than the woman whom Duan Lingtian had met in Bloody Spectre City. She was dressed in a light purple dress and had a veil covering her face. This is the place, the woman muttered to herself as soon as she entered the mountain ridge. Swoosh! After entering the mountain ridge, the woman locked onto a direction and headed in that direction. Soon after, she arrived at a valley. She only dared to look at the valley from afar. At first glance, there was nothing special about the valley. However, upon closer inspection, one could see that the void was distorted. Based on this, one could see that the void around the valley was constantly fluctuating and distorting. It was clear that the void was unstable. The little world left behind by the powerhouse from the blissful sect is over there. The lady looked at the valley in front of her and muttered softly. She slowly lifted her jade-like hand, and a jade strip with a green light lingering around it appeared in it. If the ancestral teachings of the blissful sect are true, I'll be able to complete the incomplete information in this jade token by injecting my celestial origin energy into it. According to the ancestral teachings of the blissful sect, after entering the small world left behind by the expert of the blissful sect, as long as you follow the complete information in this jade slip, you will be able to obtain what he left behind in his small world. The powerhouse from the blissful sect who created this little world had taken one of the 3 sect-guarding celestial weapons of the compassionate celestial traveler sect. Since he didn't leave the celestial weapon in the blissful sect, it's very likely that the celestial weapon is in this little world. With this thought in mind, the woman no longer hesitated as she injected her celestial origin energy into the jade token in her hand. Whoosh! The jade token shone brightly as soon as it was completed. As expected, it's completed. However, when the woman discovered that the information contained in the jade slip had been perfected, before she could rejoice, she read the information after it had been perfected. After that, her beautiful face, which was covered by a thin veil, completely changed color. A man and a woman have to go in together, and they have to do those dirty things inside before they can come out alive. End of chapter. Chapter 2589. Those bald donkeys from the blissful sect. None of them are good. The woman's beautiful face under the veil changed color. At the same time, she lost her composure and cursed softly. Then she prepared to leave. Although she wanted to retrieve the sect-guarding celestial weapon for her sect, it did not mean she was willing to pay such a high price for a sect-guarding celestial weapon that might not even be in its possession. She was from the compassionate celestial traveler sect that only had female disciples. The disciples of the compassionate celestial traveler sect were pure and untainted. She was not interested in the affairs between men and women. In her life, the only thing she cared about was cultivation. Apart from cultivating, what else did she want to do? She wanted to protect and strengthen the compassionate celestial traveler sect. Let's go back first and give this jade slip to Master, and let her decide for herself. Perhaps Master can find a way to ask 2 outsiders to enter the little world, to see if the sect guarding celestial weapon of the compassionate celestial traveler sect is inside. There's nothing I can do about this. With this thought in mind, the woman's light purple dress fluttered in the air as she prepared to leave. However, just as she was about to leave, she saw a figure flying toward her from afar. An extremely fast figure was flying over from afar. In the blink of an eye, he was not far away from her and appeared. It was a handsome young man in purple with sword-like eyebrows and starry eyes. It's him. She recognized the young man with just a glance. The purple-clad young man was none other than the purple-clad young man she had seen on the streets of Bloody Spectre City before she came here today. At that time, out of all the people on the street, only this person was not affected by the cultivation method she practiced. For this reason, she had a deep impression of him. It's her. The purple-clad young man who just arrived was none other than Duan Ling Tian. At this moment, Duan Ling Tian was also stunned as he looked at the woman before him. He did not expect to meet the woman again so soon. Moreover, he did not expect to see her here. He had come here to see the little world that had been listed as a forbidden area for generations in Bloody Spectre City. He did not expect to meet the woman on the streets of Bloody Spectre City as soon as he arrived here. Even now, Duan Ling Tian could clearly sense the woman's aura. The woman's body was still emitting waves of soul attacks, but they didn't have any offensive aura. This aura silently entered his body and went straight to his soul. However, it was devoured by the defective metal piece on the side of his soul. Due to this reason, he was able to maintain his consciousness and was not as muddled as the people on the streets of Bloody Spectre City. Just as Duan Ling Tian's gaze landed on the woman, a voice rang out. All of a sudden, he seemed to have noticed something, and he swiftly shifted his gaze. And his gaze fell onto the valley in front of him that was filled with turbulent, distorted, and extremely unstable space. That should be where the entrance to the little world is located. Once we approach the unstable region, we'll be swept into the little world by the spatial turbulence. But why does the unstable space around this valley look like it's spreading in all directions? The reason Duan Ling Tian was attracted by the turbulent and distorted space around the valley was not because of the instability of the space in this area. He was already mentally prepared for this, because he knew this before he came. The reason why he was attracted in such a hurry was because of the unstable space around the valley in front of him, which was rapidly spreading to the surroundings at a very fast speed. The turbulent and distorted void also spread out in all directions from the area around the valley. Let's go. Before Duan Ling Tian could react, the woman's voice had already reverberated in his ears like a clap of thunder. However, whoosh, 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 whoosh. In just a blink of an eye, the unstable spatial turbulence surged out like a flash flood and engulfed Duan Ling Tian and the woman before they could escape. Oh no! Duan Ling Tian's expression changed drastically as soon as he was submerged in the spatial turbulence. He cried out in his heart as he felt his consciousness gradually fading away. After a while, his consciousness completely disappeared. When Duan Ling Tian regained his consciousness, he found himself in a vast cave. As he sat up with his hands supporting his body, he saw again. There were many grooves on the walls of the cave. Moreover, there was a Buddha statue in each of these grooves. The Buddha statue was connected to the walls. It was obvious someone had carved the Buddha statue on the walls. If it was just the Buddha statue, it would not have surprised Duan Ling Tian. Beside these Buddha statues, there were also engravings of graceful women. Moreover, these women were either naked or wearing thin clothes. Moreover, these women were clinging to the Buddha statue in different postures. Some of the women's postures were so unsightly that it was unbearable to look at. Do they look good? Just as Duan Lingtian was looking around at the Buddha statue and the woman's statue, he suddenly heard a light voice. It sounded as if it came from heaven and earth. This voice was cold and beautiful. It seemed to contain some kind of special magic. As soon as it entered Duan Lingtian's ears, it made Duan Lingtian feel relaxed and happy. He quickly looked away. Duan Lingtian stood up and turned to look at the place where the light and beautiful voice came from. What entered his eyes was a graceful figure. He could not help but be stunned. The woman was wearing a light purple dress. Her eyebrows were like jade feathers, her skin was white as snow, and her waist was thin. Although half of her face was covered by a thin veil, her pair of clear and cold autumn eyes, as well as her elegant and refined temperament, were enough to make everything around her pale in comparison. Apart from that, her face was also covered by a thin veil. However, because the veil was semi-transparent, the outline of her body was faintly discernible, and one could vaguely see the perfect curve of her face. It was so beautiful that one could not help but have the urge to lift the veil and look at her face. One could only imagine how charming she was even with a thin veil on her face. If the veil was removed, one could not help but wonder how devastatingly beautiful she would be without it. This woman was the woman Duan Lingtian had met on the streets of Bloody Spectre City. She was also the woman he had met outside the little world that had been listed as a forbidden area by Bloody Spectre City for generations. I remember that both of us were swallowed by the spatial turbulence at that time. Duan Lingtian shook his head as he recalled what had happened before he fainted. Did we get sucked into the little world by the spatial turbulence? Although Duan Lingtian had already vaguely guessed this, he still could not help but ask the woman before him. If I don't kill you now, I'll die as well. I won't let you live until now. The woman's body emitted a cold aura when she heard Duan Lingtian's question. Her eyes gleamed coldly, as though she wanted to kill Duan Lingtian immediately. Kill me? Duan Lingtian was stunned. Then he frowned and asked, I don't think I've offended you, right? If you didn't come within 1,000 meters of me without making a sound, the yin-yang reversal formation outside the little world wouldn't have been activated. The space around the little world isn't stable to begin with, and the spatial turbulence wouldn't have spread out and dragged me into the little world. The woman's clear and light voice resonated in the air. As she spoke, her tone became colder and colder. Coupled with the chilling aura she emitted, it gave Duan Lingtian a feeling as though winter had arrived. Yin-yang reversal formation? Duan Lingtian's frown deepened. Can you be more specific? What's the yin-yang reversal formation? Also, what makes you think the yin-yang reversal formation wouldn't have been activated if I didn't come within 1,000 meters of you? What? Do you think I'm shirking my responsibility? A powerful aura surged out of the woman's body and swept toward Duan Lingtian. It was as though thousands of soldiers and horses were charging toward Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian was caught off guard. He felt a sweet sensation in his throat before he opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. How powerful! Duan Lingtian's eyes were filled with dread when he looked at the woman again. Earlier, he could clearly feel the woman's aura surging out of the woman's body. The moment the woman's aura collided with his body, she retracted 80 to 90% of it in time. Even so, the remaining aura still injured him. Even an ordinary great overarching golden celestial would not be able to do this, right? Whoosh! Just as Duan Lingtian was looking at the woman with dread in his eyes, a jade token that was shrouded in green light shot toward him like a bolt of lightning, without him seeing the woman make any move. Duan Lingtian raised his hand and caught the jade token as he looked at the woman with a puzzled expression on his face. The woman was the one who had tossed the jade token to him. Take a look at what's recorded in it. The woman's voice was cold and unapproachable. Upon hearing the woman's words, Duan Lingtian immediately mobilized his celestial origin energy and sent it into the jade token that was shrouded in green light. Immediately, a series of information was transmitted from the scroll into his mind. This little world was left behind by a powerhouse from the blissful sect. The yin-yang reversal formation is set up at the entrance of this little world. Once the yin-yang reversal formation is within 1,000 meters, spatial turbulence will appear, and send the owner of the yin-yang reversal formation into the little world? At this point, Duan Lingtian finally came to a realization. Chapter 2590. The yin and yang qi was the innate qi of many creatures, including human beings, who were male and female. Male humans were born with yang energy. Female human beings were born with yin energy. According to the information in the jade slip, once a creature with yang and yin energy appears near the entrance of this small world within a kilometer, the space turbulence will appear and suck them into the small world. Even if one of them is a human and the other is a beast, the result will still be the same. However, if it's a non-human creature, it'll be killed when it's dragged into the little world by the spatial turbulence. As for humans, although they can enter the small world, once they enter the small world, they will trigger the yin-yang reversal formation in the small world for the second time, which will lead to the killing formation and kill them. Duan Lingtian could not help but gasp when he read the information in the jade token. In that case, in the 10,000 years since the discovery of this small world, there must have been other creatures with the corresponding yin and yang qi within 1,000 meters of the entrance of this small world. For this reason, they must have unknowingly triggered the yin and yang reversal formation and were dragged into the little world by the spatial turbulence. With this thought in mind, Duan Lingtian looked around and saw a corpse with only the lower half of its body left. Beside the incomplete corpse, there was a storage ring and a token. This token, Duan Lingtian murmured to himself. Before he raised his hand, he extended his celestial origin energy and took the token. His eyes widened slightly. The token was completely black. There was a dragon head carved on the front of the token, and the words Black Dragon Army were carved below the dragon head. Duan Lingtian turned the token around and saw a dragon's body with the words Captain of a Chiliarch carved below the dragon's body. This corpse, is that of the Chiliarch of the Black Dragon Army? I didn't expect him to really be sucked into this small world by the spatial turbulence. Moreover, he's the only one here. This means that the creature with yin energy who was sucked into the spatial turbulence with him isn't a human, but some other creature. Duan Lingtian thought to himself. He's really unlucky. Duan Lingtian casually put away the token and the spatial ring of the Black Dragon Army's captain of the Black Dragon Army. He performed ownership claim on the spatial ring and looked inside. He discovered there was a celestial saber, some rare materials, and primitive and mediocre celestial stones in the spatial ring. Naturally, as a captain of the Black Dragon Army, the celestial stones in his spatial ring were much more than the spatial ring of the centurion of the Silverworm Army, whom Duan Lingtian had killed. It's a pity that the entrance to this small world changes every once in a while. Otherwise, the Black Dragon Army's spatial ring wouldn't be the only spatial ring here. Duan Lingtian sighed and muttered in a low voice that was filled with pity. In Duan Lingtian's opinion, if the spatial ring did not change, there would be many spatial rings left behind by celestials. However, if I can't leave this place alive, it's useless no matter how many celestial weapons and celestial stones I have. Duan Lingtian could not help but smile wryly when he thought about this. No wonder she said she'll die if she kills me. As it turns out, in this little world, unless a man and a woman of the opposite sex are within 1,000 meters of each other, they'll trigger the yin-yang reversal grand formation and attract the killing formation. Moreover, if one of them dies, it'll trigger the yin-yang reversal grand formation and attract the killing formation as well. After reading the information in the jade token, Duan Lingtian finally understood why the woman had said those words. It seemed like after she killed him, she would trigger the yin-yang reversal grand formation and attract the killing formation. Even with your strength, you can't deal with the killing formation? Duan Lingtian could not help but ask as he looked at the woman. Based on how the woman managed to injure him even after she withdrew most of her aura, she was definitely a great celestial being. This woman's strength was definitely above a great overarching golden celestial, and she might not be an ordinary great overarching golden celestial. The person who left this little world behind is a celestial king. The woman replied indifferently. Celestial king? Duan Lingtian's eyes widened when he heard the woman's words. He was no longer a newbie who had just arrived in the Devata realm. Previously, when he was in the restaurant in Bloody Spectre City, he had a rough idea of the cultivation bases of celestials in the Devata realms through the help of the waiter. For this reason, he knew what a celestial king was. Above heavenly celestials were golden celestials. Above golden celestials were great overarching golden celestials. Above great overarching golden celestials were overarching heavenly supreme celestials. Above overarching heavenly supreme celestials were celestial dukes. Above celestial dukes were celestial kings. This little world was left behind by a celestial king? Duan Lingtian's heartbeat quickened at this moment. Although his strength was comparable to a golden celestial, his cultivation base was still a crimson moon heavenly celestial, similar to most celestials who had just ascended to the Devata realms. The reason he was able to fight someone with a higher cultivation base was because he was in the spirit world. He was currently in a small place in the spirit overarching heaven, a Devata realm. The celestial methods and divine abilities that the celestials here possessed were very low grade. Moreover, the celestial weapons they possessed were only primitive celestial weapons. In the future, he would have less of an advantage in this aspect. After all, the celestials he encountered in the future would possess celestial methods, divine abilities, and celestial weapons. Duan Lingtian knew this very well. This jade slip actually records information on how to pass through the various checkpoints in the small world. If I follow the instructions, I'll be able to pass the checkpoints easily. Moreover, I'm sure the man and woman won't be separated and trigger the yin-yang reversal grand formation and attract the killing formation. As Duan Lingtian continued to read the jade token, he also read the instructions on how to pass the checkpoints in the little world. This was the same feeling he had when he played games in his spare time on Earth in his previous life, and obtained the strategy guide in advance. The checkpoints in the little world aren't meant to kill, they're meant to separate people. Without the hint on this jade slip, even if a man and a woman continue to go deeper into this small world, it is very likely that they will be separated at the various checkpoints later. Once they are separated by more than 1,000 meters, both of them will trigger the yin-yang reversal array and attract the killing array. Now that I have the instructions in the jade token, I don't have to worry about not being able to make it to the end. Duan Lingtian had a smile on his face after he finished reading the notification on the jade token, because this also meant that he and the woman beside him could smoothly pass through the various obstacles in the small world without being killed in the process. There's still the last part of the information. If I'm not mistaken, the last part of the information should record the method to leave this little world. Before reading the last part of the information, Duan Lingtian had already guessed what was recorded in that part of the information. However, although Duan Lingtian had guessed that it was the method to leave this little world, he would never have dreamed that it would record the method to leave this little world. The idea of leaving this little world would make him speechless. After a man and a woman of the opposite sex passed through the checkpoints, they could only open the exit of the little world and leave this little world alive by having sex with each other. Most importantly, even if the man and woman pass through the checkpoints, if they can't leave this little world within 3 months from the moment they enter, they'll trigger the yin-yang reversal grand formation and attract the killing formation, and they'll die. After taking a deep breath, Duan Lingtian's hand trembled as he threw the jade token that was surrounded by green light back to the woman, who was not far away from him. Are you done reading it? The woman asked nonchalantly. Yes. Duan Lingtian nodded. It's impossible for me to do that with you, even if I die. The woman stared at Duan Lingtian and expressed her stance immediately. Her eyes were filled with determination. What do you mean by that? Upon hearing the woman's words, Duan Lingtian was instantly enraged. Do you think I'm willing to do that with you just to leave this little world alive? Don't think too much. I, Duan Lingtian, am a man with a family. Even if I don't have a family, I, Duan Lingtian, am not a casual person. You said it's impossible for you to do that with me even if you die. I'll say it now. Even if you want to do that with me, You'll have to see if I, Duan Lingtian, am willing to do it. Duan Lingtian glared at the woman when he reached the end of his sentence. You. Never in her wildest dreams would the woman have imagined that her words would be exchanged with such words from the man before her. For a moment, she was so angry that she trembled. Of course, at this moment, she also noticed that the man in front of her was different. If it was another man, he would never behave like this in front of her, even though she had never interacted with any man before. However, even if one had never eaten pork, they would have seen pigs run. Enough. Let's first follow the instructions on the jade slip and pass through the layers of obstacles in front of us. After passing through the layers of obstacles, we may be able to find another way to leave. We don't have to do what it says, Duan Lingtian said as he glanced at the woman indifferently. Although he could see that this woman with a veil on her face was a peerless beauty that was not inferior to his two wives in the slightest. Perhaps due to her unfathomable cultivation base, her temperament was even better than his two wives. However, he still did not have any other thoughts about this woman. After all, he already had enough women around him. Chapter 2591. The woman did not respond to Duan Lingtian's suggestion. It was obvious that she had agreed to it. My name is Duan Lingtian. You, what's your name? Duan Lingtian asked as he looked at the woman and prepared to break through the levels according to the information recorded in the jade slip. Duan Lingtian could not help but frown when he saw the woman had no intention of responding to him. He said unhappily, I don't mean anything else. I can't possibly keep calling you throughout the journey, right? Morong Bing. Finally, the woman's cold and pleasant voice rang out as she spoke her name. Morong Bing? You're really cold. Duan Lingtian glanced at Morong Bing indifferently as he thought to himself. Then, he followed Morong Bing to the various levels in the little world. The purpose of these levels was to kill people. However, there was a difference in the way they killed people. The reason why there was a difference in the way they killed people was because these levels did not kill them directly. They would only try to separate the man and woman who were trying to break through the levels. Once the man and woman were 1,000 meters apart from each other, they would trigger the yin-yang reversal formation, which would lead to the death of the cultivator and the destruction of the cultivator. Due to the information in the jade token, although Duan Lingtian and Morong Bing had encountered many difficulties along the way, they still managed to overcome them. Even if there were some that Duan Lingtian could not handle, Morong Bing dealt with them. This woman, she's so strong. During this process, Duan Lingtian witnessed Morong Bing's strength. It was a strength that was far beyond his reach. In fact, as long as Morong Bing wanted to, she could kill him with a single strike. In terms of strength, he was not on the same level as Morong Bing at this moment. Whoosh! As the scenery changed again, Duan Lingtian discovered that the place he and Morong Bing were in had changed again. This was also the change that happened after they passed the last level. We should be at our destination now. Duan Lingtian could not help but think to himself as he looked at the changed scenery. When Duan Lingtian regained his senses, he discovered he and Morong Bing had appeared in a dazzling golden Buddha hall. The golden Buddha statues that surrounded the Buddha hall shone with a dazzling golden light. Beside every golden Buddha statue around the temple, there were still statues of graceful and beautiful women. Moreover, each of them was attached to a Buddha statue. Their forms and movements were different, and some of their movements were unbearable to look at. Duan Lingtian was already immune to all this since he had seen many of them along the way. As for Morong Bing, she did not even look at her surroundings. Her gaze was fixed on the center of the temple the moment she appeared in front of it. There was a stone platform standing there. On the stone platform, there was a bald monk of flesh and blood sitting cross-legged. He wore a golden and red kasaya, and his facial features were regular. Although he wasn't handsome, he was still pleasing to the eye. His eyes were tightly shut as he sat there like a statue. There's no sign of life at all. At the same time, Duan Lingtian could clearly sense that there was no sign of life on the monk. It was as though he had been dead for a long time. Duan Lingtian did not find it strange that the monk's body had not decayed. This was because the body of an immortal would not decay like a mortal's body. As long as it was not destroyed by humans, it would remain intact even after tens of thousands of years. Compared to Yejia, when Duan Ling Tian discovered that the monk who seemed to be made of flesh and blood did not have any aura of life, Morong Bing's cold voice rang in his ears. Brother Ling Tian, don't worry. Compared to Yejia? What kind of name is that? You know him? Duan Ling Tian was shocked. He's the powerhouse from the blissful sect who left this little world behind. It seems like the legend is true. Back then, when he was severely injured and on the verge of death, he chose to pass away in this little world. As soon as Morong Bing finished speaking, she flew out and took the spatial ring from the monk's left ring finger. Then, she dripped her blood on it to claim ownership. Swoosh. Soon after, a horsetail whisk appeared in Morong Bing's hand. A celestial weapon. Moreover, it doesn't seem like an ordinary celestial weapon. As soon as the horsetail whisk appeared in Morong Bing's hand, Duan Ling Tian could tell it was not as simple as it seemed. When he extended his divine consciousness, he discovered that the horsetail whisk was extremely powerful. This horsetail whisk was not much inferior to the Jasper celestial sword and universe ruler he had used in the past. The world-cleansing horsetail whisk. Morong Bing looked at the horsetail whisk in her hand. The frosty expression on her face disappeared in just a blink of an eye and was replaced by a faint smile. Duan Ling Tian, who happened to be looking at her, was momentarily stunned. Although Morong Bing's perfect face was covered by a veil, she was still smiling at Duan Ling Tian. However, Duan Ling Tian was still attracted by the faint smile on Morong Bing's face. A smile that could topple a city, and a smile that could topple a kingdom. It was nothing more than this. Morong Bing seemed to have noticed Duan Ling Tian's gaze. She quickly withdrew the faint smile on her face, and it was replaced by a nonchalant expression on her face. However, if one looked closely at her eyes, one could see the excitement in her eyes. A hint of excitement could be seen in the depths of Morong Bing's eyes. She was excited because of the world-cleansing horsetail whisk. The horsetail whisk in her hand was one of the 3 sect-guarding celestial weapons of the compassionate celestial traveler sect, the world-cleansing horsetail whisk. This celestial weapon is not simple, Duan Ling Tian said as he looked at Morong Bing. He could clearly sense the change in Morong Bing's emotions. Normally, Morong Bing would have ignored Duan Ling Tian when she heard Duan Ling Tian's words. However, now that she was in a good mood, she replied, "This is the sect-guarding celestial weapon, the world-cleansing horsetail whisk, that was lost for 10,000 years. Naturally, it's not simple. The sect-guarding celestial weapon of your sect?" Upon hearing Morong Bing's words, Duan Ling Tian glanced at her before he looked at the lifeless monk and asked, "Does this mean the sect-guarding celestial weapon of your sect was lost for 10,000 years because this powerhouse from the blissful sect took it away?" Duan Ling Tian still remembered what the 2 passers-by had said to him when he was in Bloody Spectre City. It seemed like this little world had existed for 10,000 years as well. At this moment, Morong Bing merely glanced at Duan Ling Tian coldly and ignored Duan Ling Tian. Duan Ling Tian finally figured out the answer to his question when he saw Morong Bing's expression. He knew Morong Bing was right. His words had exposed the scars of Morong Bing's sect. That was why Morong Bing had reacted in such a manner. "Isn't he a celestial king? How did he die here?" Duan Ling Tian asked curiously. Although Duan Ling Tian had never encountered a celestial king before, based on his understanding of the cultivation bases of celestials in the Devata realms, celestial kings were extremely powerful. Ordinary people would not be able to kill them. Morong Bing ignored Duan Ling Tian's question. She continued to ignore Duan Ling Tian. She walked around the Buddha hall with a frown on her face. It was as though she had encountered some trouble. During this process, Duan Ling Tian's divine consciousness that he had extended out could clearly sense something. Morong Bing's divine consciousness was sweeping through the entire Buddha hall. At the same time, he also discovered that Morong Bing's divine consciousness was becoming more and more restless. Morong Bing's emotions were getting more and more agitated. It seems like she hasn't found a way out yet. It was not difficult for Duan Lingtian to figure this out when he saw Morong Bing's reaction. There are 2.5 months left. After 2.5 months, if Morong Bing and I don't leave this little world, we'll trigger the Yin-Yang Reversal Grand Formation and activate the Killing Formation. We'll die. Duan Lingtian's expression turned solemn when he recalled the information recorded in the Jade Token. Then he extended his divine consciousness as well. At the same time, he did not remain idle as he continued to search for an exit out of this little world. However, after searching for a long time, he still found nothing. At this moment, apart from the blissful sex powerhouse, Binayaka, who had passed away in a seated posture, and a pile of female and Buddhist statues, Duan Lingtian and Morong Bing were the only ones left in the huge Buddha hall. They were fumbling around in confusion. This guy, he can't rest in peace even after he's dead. After searching for a long time, Duan Lingtian, who had lost his patience, finally found Binayaka, the blissful sex powerhouse, who was sitting cross-legged. He could not help but curse under his breath. Humph! As soon as Duan Lingtian's words left his mouth, he heard a cold snort by his ear. Whoosh! Following that, a gust of wind blew past him and swept toward Binayaka, the blissful sex powerhouse. Bang! In the next moment, a deafening explosion rang out as the body of Baira Yejia, the blissful sex powerhouse, exploded. This is bad. As soon as Bai Yejia's body exploded, Duan Lingtian's expression changed drastically as he stared at Bai Yejia's body. He cried out in shock. What the hell? He cried out in alarm. Back off. His shout was directed at Morong Bing, who was standing in front of Binayaga's body. She had just destroyed Binayaga's body. However, it was too late. Almost at the same time that Morong Bing destroyed Bai Yejia's body exploded. Whoosh! 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 Chapter 2592. Swoosh! 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 Although Duan Lingtian managed to retreat far away in time, there were still many green streaks of light that were heading toward him after Bai Yejia's body exploded. He did not even have time to dodge before they entered his body. What's this? When the green streaks of light entered Duan Lingtian's body, they did not leave any wounds on Duan Lingtian's body. It was as though they had merged with Duan Lingtian's body. Soul attack. Duan Lingtian could not help but think of this possibility. However, as soon as he thought of this, he realized something was amiss. No, this is not a soul attack. If it was a soul attack, it would have targeted my soul after entering my body. As for this green light, the moment it entered my body, it seemed to have turned into specks of liquid. At this moment, Duan Lingtian could clearly feel the green streaks of light entering his body. After entering his body, the green streaks of light turned into droplets of liquid that spread all over his body. It did not take long for the green streaks of light to spread all over his body. What's going on? When the green streaks of light spread all over Duan Lingtian's body and spread all over his body, Duan Lingtian felt his body heating up. Soon after, a surge of fire rose from his lower abdomen. It was as though a cannon had been charging for a long time and was in urgent need of release. That green streak of light. That is a medicine. At this moment, it was not difficult for Duan Lingtian to figure out what the green streaks of light were. As for what kind of medicine it was, Duan Lingtian had already guessed. That monk from the blissful sect. He's a dignified celestial king, but he actually left such a despicable method on his body. He's a disgrace to all celestial kings. At this moment, Duan Lingtian felt his body heating up. On the other side, Morong Bing was also attacked by the green streamers. Her snow-white skin that was exposed outside of her light purple dress had also turned crimson, as if it had been dyed with a layer of red dye. It was particularly eye-catching. Moreover, her eyes, which were originally cold and flawless, had turned murky at this moment. It was as though her eyes had been tainted by mud. I feel like if this continues, I'll explode and die. Initially, Duan Lingtian tried his best to endure the heat. However, after a while he realized he could no longer hold himself back. At this moment he was like a furnace. His temperature had reached the peak of his body was about to explode. Duan Lingtian continued gritting his teeth, continued to resist the evil fire in his divine energy in his body. All of a sudden, he felt a soft and fragrant sensation on the back of his neck. Following that, he felt a scorching heat. However, it was a pair of arms that were as smooth as jade, as white as snow, and as smooth as lotus roots. They wrapped around his neck tightly, as if they were unwilling to let go even if they were to die. They wanted to become one with his neck. No, don't touch me. Duan Lingtian felt a burning sensation in his ears, followed by a soft moan. At the same time, a delicate body that was as delicate as a water snake clung onto Duan Lingtian's back and hugged him tightly like an octopus. Due to the tight hug, Duan Lingtian found it difficult to breathe. Big sister, are you the one touching me now? Along with the delicate fragrance that entered his nose and entered his arms, Duan Lingtian felt his body, that was already boiling hot, became even hotter. Moreover, the demonic fire in his body had also increased in intensity. It was as though he was on the verge of losing control. At this moment, Duan Lingtian could clearly feel that his mind was on the verge of collapse. He was on the verge of losing his mind. Kill me, kill me. Morong Bing gritted her teeth as she hugged Duan Lingtian tightly like an octopus. She looked as though she would lose her mind at any moment. If I still had the strength to kill you, I would have shaken you off a long time ago. Duan Lingtian looked at Morong Bing helplessly with a wry smile on his face. At the same time, he felt as though his consciousness was fading away. What a powerful medicine! It completely ignores my celestial origin energy and soul energy. Duan Lingtian had tried to use his celestial origin energy and soul energy to resist the medicine that was spreading through his body. However, he discovered that the medicine was extremely overbearing. It completely ignored his celestial origin energy and soul energy. No wonder her condition is worse than mine, Duan Lingtian muttered to himself. The wry smile on Duan Lingtian's face widened when he looked at Morong Bing, whose eyes were gradually dimming. A hint of helplessness could be seen on his face. Morong Bing was affected by the medicine before Duan Lingtian. For this reason, her condition was worse than Duan Lingtian's. Soon after, Morong Bing completely lost her mind. After a few moments, Duan Lingtian lost his mind as well. Two blurry figures, in a situation where they had lost their rationality, were completely dominated by the medicinal power in their bodies. They merged together, yin and yang intersecting, water and milk fusing together. During this process, the surrounding environment changed. The dazzling Buddhist temple turned into a valley covered in green grass. Even after the change in location, the two figures were still entwined with each other. It was as though they would never feel tired. This valley was the entrance to the little world, created by the celestial king from the blissful sect. Usually, the void around the valley would distort due to the instability of space. But now, not to mention the surroundings of the valley, even the space within the valley was extremely calm and stable. It was a stark contrast to before. It was as though the entrance to the little world had disappeared. In fact, when Duan Lingtian and Morong Bing lost their minds and were entwined with each other, the little world that the celestial king from the blissful sect left behind had disappeared. Time continued to pass by quietly. About 3 hours later, along with an ear-piercing shriek, a loud bang was heard. In the next moment, the two figures that were entwined together in the valley suddenly separated. The tall and burly figure was directly sent flying, crashing heavily into the mountain wall at the side of the valley. Barf! Duan Lingtian's body trembled, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. At the same time, he gradually regained his consciousness. When he opened his eyes, the first thing he saw was a naked figure standing not far away from him. At the same time, the specks of red roses between her delicate legs were extremely eye-catching, and they instantly captured Duan Lingtian's gaze. Upon seeing this, Duan Lingtian could guess what had happened. He could not help but smile wryly. "Lecher, I'm going to kill you," Morong Bing cried out coldly, as she covered her body with a layer of clothes. In just a blink of an eye, she appeared in front of Duan Lingtian. Whoosh! Whoosh, whoosh. Morong Bing's fingers that were shooting out rays of light were only an inch away from Duan Lingtian's forehead. If she moved a little closer, she would be able to kill Duan Lingtian. Morong Bing looked at the handsome face in front of her. After the coldness and anger in her eyes, there was also some indescribable complicated feelings mixed in. When she discovered Duan Lingtian had taken her virginity earlier, she wanted to kill him immediately. However, when she thought about how Duan Lingtian had no choice but to kill Duan Lingtian, she realized she was the one who had caused all this trouble. If she had not destroyed the body of Bai Na Yejia, the celestial king from the blissful sect, none of this would have happened. In the end, she was the one who had caused all this. For this reason, she could not bring herself to kill Duan Lingtian, since she felt she was the one in the wrong. Morong Bing's attack was so fast that Duan Lingtian did not have time to react at all. He thought he was going to die, but he did not expect Morong Bing would stop at the most critical moment. Phew! Duan Lingtian sighed in relief when he saw Morong Bing's reaction. Although I didn't want to do that, as a man, I'll take responsibility for you. Duan Lingtian sighed when he met Morong Bing's eyes that were filled with killing intent. Then, he looked at Morong Bing solemnly and made a promise to her. Although what happened earlier was not what he wanted, it was not what he wanted. However, it was true that he had destroyed Morong Bing's virginity. He could not turn a blind eye to this. As a man, he had to take responsibility. As soon as Duan Lingtian's words left his mouth, Morong Bing, who was standing in front of him, with a menacing aura, suddenly turned into a shadow and disappeared without a trace. It was as though she had never appeared. She left. Duan Lingtian's expression changed drastically when he saw Morong Bing had left. Due to Morong Bing's strength being far stronger than Duan Lingtian, Duan Lingtian could not even catch a glimpse of her figure when she left. Don't ever let me see you again. If you appear in front of me again, I'll definitely kill you. At this moment, Morong Bing's voice rang in Duan Lingtian's ears from afar. It was so cold that it seemed to be able to freeze everything within 10,000 miles. After saying that, Morong Bing disappeared completely. Not only had she disappeared, but her voice had also disappeared. I'll find you. The woman that I, Duan Lingtian, have slept with can only be Duan Lingtian's woman. Duan Lingtian muttered to himself when he finally accepted the fact that Morong Bing had left. His tone was domineering when he said the last sentence. I'm not going to let you go. Morong Bing. The world-cleansing Horsetail Whisk is her sex's celestial weapon. These were the only two clues that Morong Bing had left for Duan Lingtian. If he wanted to find Morong Bing in the future, he would have to rely on these two clues. Chapter 2593. The little world seems to have disappeared. After Duan Lingtian slowly regained his senses, he who was standing in the middle of the valley also noticed this. Naturally, he was not certain if the little world had truly disappeared or not. The only thing he was certain of was that the entrance to the little world had disappeared. Kerr, little Fei Tian Wu. A guilty expression appeared on Duan Lingtian's face when he thought about his two wives and Feng Tianwu, whom he had already taken as his wife. After all, the three of them were waiting for him to go to the divine offering land to save them. However, he had gotten himself involved with another woman. He could not help but feel guilty. After a few moments, Duan Lingtian withdrew the guilt on his face and prepared to leave the valley and return to Bloody Spectre City. When Duan Lingtian was about to return, he was shocked to discover that the celestial origin energy in his body was different from before. The celestial origin energy in his body was different from before. It seemed like it had increased by a few levels. My cultivation actually increased by an entire 4 levels? What's going on? After a while, Duan Lingtian confirmed that he was not mistaken. Currently, his cultivation base was equivalent to that of a blue moon heavenly celestial. It was 4 levels higher than when he was a crimson moon heavenly celestial. Before I lost consciousness, I'm certain my cultivation base was still a crimson moon heavenly celestial. At that time, I even used my divine consciousness, so I'm certain my soul was still at the crimson moon heavenly celestial stage, and not the blue moon heavenly celestial stage? Could it be that my inexplicable increase in my cultivation base was due to doing that with her after I lost consciousness? Then during that process my cultivation base increased? In the end, Duan Tian felt this was the only possibility. His sudden increase in cultivation base was most likely related to that woman. At this moment, a graceful figure appeared in his mind. It was none other than the mysterious and powerful woman Morong Bing. Who is she? Let alone Bloody Spectre City. I don't think there's anyone like her in Nine Spectres County, right? Bloody Spectre City was under the jurisdiction of the Nine Spectres County. Apart from Bloody Spectre City, there were 8 other cities that were similar to Bloody Spectre City in Nine Spectres County. The 9 cities, including Bloody Spectre City, were located in all directions of Nine Spectres County. They were like stars surrounding the moon, making Nine Spectres County look like a lofty emperor. The 9 cities, including Bloody Spectre City, had to hand over a large amount of celestial stones to the Nine Spectres County in exchange for protection. Duan Tian had learned about this from the waiter in Bloody Spectre City. Because of this, he had a certain understanding of the Nine Spectres County. He knew that even in the Nine Spectres County, there might not be someone like Morong Bing. If I hadn't lost my consciousness at that time, perhaps, I would have known what happened during that process, and even know why my cultivation had inexplicably increased by several levels. Duan Tian thought to himself. Naturally, he knew he could only think about it. At that time, if he had not lost his consciousness, he would not have touched Morong Bing. He would not have gotten himself into trouble for no reason. However, since he had gotten himself into trouble as a man, he had to bear the consequences. It was just as he had said earlier. The woman he had slept with could only be Duan Tian's woman. Since I can't figure it out, I'll just stop thinking about it. No matter what, it's a good thing for me. After thinking about it for a long time, Duan Tian still could not figure out how his cultivation base had risen by 4 levels for no reason while he was unconscious. He no longer thought about it and shifted his attention elsewhere. Now, I'll head to the Black Dragon Army's camp first. With the identity token, I can enter the Black Dragon Army camp and become a Chiliarch. I'll be able to enjoy the best cultivation environment in Bloody Spectre City, second only to the City Lord of Bloody Spectre City. Once my cultivation base has improved, I'll leave Bloody Spectre City and visit the Nine Spectres County. Then, I'll slowly make my way to the spirit overarching heaven in the Devata realm. Duan Tian muttered to himself as his gaze turned sharp. Nothing could be accomplished in one go. Duan Tian, who had experienced the hardships of the mundane realms, knew this very well. Right now what he needed to do was to fight for a better cultivation environment and better cultivation resources, as much as possible. Then, he would use the fastest speed to increase his strength. He only had 1,000 years to live. Although 1,000 years sounded like a long time, Duan Tian knew it was a long time. In the Devata realms, some powerful beings would enter closed-door cultivation for hundreds, or even thousands of years. For this reason, 1,000 years was not a long time in the Devata realms. Swoosh! The sound of wind whistling in the air rang in the air as Duan Tian made his way to the Black Dragon Army's camp southwest of Bloody Spectre City at his fastest speed. Due to his impatience, not only did Duan Tian cast the various divine abilities he had mastered, and the profundity of his 99 heavenly veins that he had tempered thousands of times, but he had also cast the most powerful technique from the Sovereign Heart Sword. He even summoned the Devata artifact, the 7 Orifices exquisite sword, that he usually hid in his body. At this moment, he summoned it out of his body and merged it with the sword formation under his feet. Duan Tian's speed was much faster than most golden celestials. Naturally, golden celestials were golden celestials who used celestial methods, divine abilities, and celestial weapons. If they did not use celestial methods, divine abilities, and celestial weapons, even the strongest violet sun golden celestial would not be able to match Duan Tian's speed. The Black Dragon Army's camp. With Duan Tian's speed, it did not take long for him to arrive at a mountain range southwest of Bloody Spectre City. This was where the Black Dragon Army's camp was located. It was also where one of the two celestial stone veins, controlled by Bloody Spectre City, was located. The Black Dragon Army's camp was located here, to guard this celestial stone vein. As for the other celestial stone vein, it was guarded by the Silverworm Army. As expected of a celestial stone vein, the heaven and earth spirit energy here is so dense that other places can't compare to it. Duan Lingtian could not help but sigh as he stood in the air above the mountain range, and sensed the heaven and earth spirit energy in the air. If this place is already so dense, how dense would the heaven and earth spirit energy be in the heart of the celestial stone vein, where the captain of the Black Dragon Army's camp is located? The moment Duan Lingtian thought to himself, his eyes lit up like two bright stars in the night sky. "Who's there? How dare you trespass on our Black Dragon Army's camp?" Just as Duan Lingtian's eyes lit up, an untimely shout rang in the air, attracting Duan Lingtian's attention. Following that, under Duan Lingtian's gaze, 11 men dressed in black armor flew toward him from afar. In just a blink of an eye they surrounded him. The 11 men in black armor were led by a middle-aged man with a stern expression. A deaconess of the Black Dragon Army? Duan Lingtian narrowed his eyes when he saw the badge on the middle-aged man's chest. He immediately guessed the man's identity. The badge on the middle-aged man's chest was similar to the badge on the Silverworm Army's deaconess of the Silverworm Army. Moreover, it was not difficult for him to guess the identity of the man in front of him, based on what the waiter in the restaurant had told him. "Bring me to see your commander." The expression on Duan Lingtian's face did not change at all when he was surrounded by the 11 men from the Black Dragon Army. At the same time, he looked at the middle-aged man in black armor, who had a cold expression on his face. "See, Lord Commander? Who are you? Do you know our Lord Commander?" The middle-aged man in black armor narrowed his eyes when he heard Duan Lingtian's words. He could not help but ask. Towards the end of his questioning, his tone became more polite. He was only a decurion in the Black Dragon Army. If the person in front of him really knew the Lord Commander of the Black Dragon Army, he was not someone he could afford to offend. He was not the only one he could not afford to offend. Even his boss, a centurion of the Black Dragon Army, and his boss's boss, one of the 10 captains of the Black Dragon Army, could not afford to offend Duan Lingtian. Swoosh! Duan Lingtian did not waste his breath. He raised his hand and took out the identity token of a Black Dragon Army's captain that he found in the little world left behind by the Celestial King from the Blissful Sect. Duan Lingtian deliberately waved the identity token in front of the middle-aged man. The identity token of a Chiliarch. When the deaconess of the Black Dragon Army saw the identity token in Duan Lingtian's hand, his eyes widened in shock. Even the remaining 10 soldiers were shocked. After a while, the way they looked at Duan Lingtian changed completely. "My lord, this way please." The middle-aged man in black armor, the deaconess of the Black Dragon Army, bowed at Duan Lingtian, before he gestured for Duan Lingtian to enter the Black Dragon Army's camp. The deaconess of the Black Dragon Army led the way while Duan Lingtian followed behind him. The remaining 10 soldiers followed closely behind Duan Lingtian. As they looked at Duan Lingtian's back, they could not help but discuss among themselves through voice transmissions. The identity token in his hand must belong to the Chiliarch who died a month ago in the little world in the mountains south of Bloody Spectre City, right? It must be. Apart from that Chiliarch's identity medallion, the other 9 Chiliarch's identity medallions can't leave their bodies. Chapter 2594. Lord Commander has announced that whoever finds the identity token of the dead captain will be able to replace him as the new captain of the Black Dragon Army. Does this mean this purple-clad young man will be the new captain of the Black Dragon Army? The captains of the Black Dragon Army are all golden celestials. I wonder if this purple-clad young man is a golden celestial as well. It doesn't matter if he's a golden celestial or not. Since Lord Commander has announced, and he has brought back the identity token of the Black Dragon Army, he's bound to be the new captain of the Black Dragon Army. Indeed, Lord Commander has always been a man of his word. A man of his word. Along the way, the soldiers who followed Duan Lingtian and the decurion discussed among themselves through voice transmission. The content of the discussion revolved around Duanling Tian. But, even if Lord Commander makes him the new Chiliarch of the Black Dragon Army, the other 9 Chiliarchs won't let him hold the position so easily, right? As for those 9 Chiliarchs, I don't know about 6 of them, but I'm sure that 3 of them won't allow him to sit in the position of Chiliarch so easily. Each of them has a centurion, who has become a Crimson Sun Golden Celestial. Indeed, those 3 Chiliarchs must be hoping that their centurion, who has already become a Golden Immortal, will replace the deceased Chiliarch as the new Chiliarch. Therefore, with Lord Commander around, he'll definitely become the new captain of the Black Dragon Army. However, whether or not he has the ability to secure the position of Chiliarch will depend on himself. That's right. After all, there's a rule in the Black Dragon Army. Any centurion who has become a Golden Celestial has the right to challenge any of the 10 captains. If he succeeds in the challenge, he'll be replaced. The defeated captain will be demoted to a centurion. The 10 soldiers who followed Duanling Tian looked at Duanling Tian's back with gleaming eyes. They were curious. They wondered if this purple-clad young man would be able to take the position after becoming a captain of the Black Dragon Army. Lord Centurion, the decurion did not bring Duanling Tian to the Black Dragon Army's commander. With his position in the Black Dragon Army, he did not have the right to meet the commander. Therefore, he passed Duanling Tian to his boss, a centurion of the Black Dragon Army. The centurion of the Black Dragon Army looked very old, but he was full of vigor. Sir, please wait here for a moment. I'll go see my Chiliarch and inform him of this matter. I'll ask him to bring Sir to see the commander. The centurion of the Black Dragon Army did not bring Duanling Tian to the Black Dragon Army's captain. My lord. At this moment, the decurion of the Black Dragon Army's eyes flashed. In the end, he called out to Duanling Tian through voice transmission. Then, he told Duanling Tian about the things his soldiers had discussed along the way. The reason he did this was to befriend Duanling Tian, to a certain extent. In his opinion, telling Duanling Tian these things would not affect him other than wasting his breath. Moreover, he could befriend this man who was about to become a captain of the Black Dragon Army. Even if Duanling Tian could not take the position of a captain, he could at least be a centurion of the Black Dragon Army. If Duanling Tian could not even take the position of a centurion, and could only be a decurion, then he would just take it as a waste of his breath. The commander of the Black Dragon Army is a man of his word. As long as I show him my identity token, he'll definitely appoint me as a captain of the Black Dragon Army. Among the 9 captains of the Black Dragon Army, 3 of them will treat me as a thorn in their side after I become a captain of the Black Dragon Army. Moreover, all of them hope that their centurions who have become Crimson Sun Golden Celestials will defeat me and replace me as the new captain of the Black Dragon Army. If that's the case, I'll be demoted to a centurion. Moreover, even if I'm demoted to a centurion, I'll still have to face challenges from a decurion. If I'm defeated, I'll be replaced as a decurion. Moreover, if a decurion is defeated by his soldiers, he'll be replaced as well. This was what the decurion of the Black Dragon Army had told Duanling Tian about. Although these things are insignificant to me, they're still useful. But thank you for reminding me. Duanling Tian nodded at the decurion of the Black Dragon Army to express his gratitude. You're welcome, my lord. The decurion of the Black Dragon Army smiled in response. So, you're the one who found Captain Huang Jiabing's identity token? Not long after, a voice that came from afar sounded out by Duanling Tian's ears, and it was filled with a condescending tone. It was as though a superior was speaking to a subordinate. A few moments later, 2 figures appeared in Duanling Tian's field of vision. The person at the back was none other than the centurion of the Black Dragon Army, who had left earlier. He stood respectfully behind a middle-aged man dressed in black armor. The middle-aged man had a medium build and an ordinary appearance. However, his every movement carried a sense of superiority, as if he was looking down on all living things and looking down on all living things. A captain of the Black Dragon Army? Duanling Tian guessed the middle-aged man's identity when he saw the insignia on the chest of the middle-aged man's black armor. As for Captain Huang Jiabing, he was the owner of the half-severed corpse he saw in the little world. He was also the owner of the identity token in Duan Lingtian's hand. My lord, this is my captain Jian Xiaoping. He's one of the 3 captains I told you about. He's one of the captains who wants you to lose your position. The decurion of the Black Dragon Army sent another voice transmission to Duan Lingtian. Among the 9 captains in the Black Dragon Army, Jian Xiaoping is the weakest. He might be replaced by the 3 captains who have become Crimson Sun Golden Celestials at any time. I heard that one of his subordinates who has become a Crimson Sun Golden Celestial and is currently in closed-door cultivation plans to challenge him after he comes out of closed-door cultivation. Moreover, there's a high chance he'll defeat him and replace him. For this reason, Jian Xiaoping is the one who wants you to lose your position the most. The decurion of the Black Dragon Army finished speaking. He's your direct superior. Is it appropriate for you to reveal his background to me? Duan Lingtian asked through voice transmission, ignoring Jian Xiaoping, the captain of the Black Dragon Army, who was looking at him condescendingly. His gaze landed on the decurion of the Black Armored Army. My lord! The decurion of the Black Dragon Army broke out in cold sweat when he saw Duan Lingtian ignoring his direct superior, Jian Xiaoping, and looking at him meaningfully. He lowered his head guiltily, not daring to meet Duan Lingtian's eyes. Initially, he wanted to befriend Duan Lingtian. However, he did not expect Duan Lingtian to be unwilling to accept his goodwill. Little did he know that when he revealed the background of his direct superior, Jian Xiaoping, to Duan Lingtian had already looked down on him from the bottom of his heart. It was impossible for Duan Lingtian to repay him in the future. Today, the decurion of the Black Dragon Army betrayed his direct superior. In the future he would betray Duan Lingtian as well. Didn't you hear me talking to you? Jian Xiaoping glared at the purple-clad young man coldly. Although he managed to maintain his composure, he was furious. He was a captain of the Black Dragon Army. But today a foreign brat actually dared to ignore him? Do you really think you can become a captain of the Black Dragon Army just because you found the captain's token? Jian Xiaoping's voice was even colder than before. At the same time, he looked at Duan Lingtian with hostility. It was as though he was treating Duan Lingtian as his enemy. If I'm not mistaken. Finally, Duan Lingtian turned around and looked at Jian Xiaoping indifferently before he said, I don't think it's up to a mere captain like you to decide if I'm going to become a captain of the Black Dragon Army. Or, are you trying to say that you can represent the commander of the Black Dragon Army? Duan Lingtian looked at Jian Xiaoping meaningfully when he reached the end of his sentence. Swoosh! Duan Lingtian's words sounded like a provocation to Jian Xiaoping. Jian Xiaoping's expression changed drastically as he shouted angrily, How dare you? You're seeking death. As soon as Jian Xiaoping finished speaking, his celestial origin energy surged out of his body. He could not help but want to attack Duan Lingtian. Lord Captain, just as Jian Xiaoping was about to attack, the Black Dragon Army Centurion behind him stopped him in time. If the commander finds out that you're making things difficult for the person who found Chiliarch Huang Jiabing's token, I'm afraid he won't be happy. Upon hearing the Centurion's words, Jian Xiaoping withdrew his celestial origin energy. He looked at Duan Lingtian coldly and said with a sneer, Brat, even if Lord Commander keeps his promise and appointed you as a captain of the Black Dragon Army, we'll have to see if you're capable of being a captain of the Black Dragon Army. The sneer on Jian Xiaoping's face deepened when he finished speaking. You don't have to worry about that, Duan Lingtian said indifferently. I don't dare to speak about the other captains of the Black Dragon Army, but I think I'm stronger than you. Chapter 2595. You. Upon hearing Duan Lingtian's words, Jian Xiaoping, the captain of the Black Dragon Army, was so infuriated that he almost threw up blood. At the same time, his celestial origin energy surged out of his body again. It was as though he was going to attack Duan Lingtian at any time. However, when he recalled the warning from the Centurion behind him, he suppressed his anger. It was not a big deal to injure or kill Duan Lingtian. It was not a big deal to offend the commander of the Black Dragon Army. He knew very well that Duan Lingtian was not a big deal. Huang Jiabing, the captain of the Black Dragon Army who had passed away, was the commander of the Black Dragon Army's most important person. Otherwise, the commander of the Black Dragon Army would not have made such a promise just to obtain Huang Jiabing's identity token. In the past, there had been cases of captain of the Black Dragon Army who had passed away. However, the commander of the Black Dragon Army had never made such a promise. He had promised that the person who found the identity token of the fallen captain of the Black Dragon Army would be promoted to a captain of the Black Dragon Army. Although Jian Xiaoping refrained from attacking Duan Lingtian, his gaze turned colder as he looked at Duan Lingtian. Brat, it's useless to talk big in the Black Dragon Army. I hope you're as strong as you are. You don't have to worry about that. Duan Lingtian said indifferently. Now, take me to the commander of the Black Dragon Army. I'm waiting for him to fulfill his promise and appoint me as the new captain of the Black Dragon Army. Humph. Jian Xiaoping snorted coldly before he flew out as well. From the beginning until the end, he did not even greet Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian followed after Jian Xiaoping. Whoosh. Perhaps, Jian Xiaoping wanted to test Duan Lingtian, so he increased his speed to the maximum. In just a blink of an eye, he was already a small black dot in front of Duan Lingtian. However, Duan Lingtian did not seem to notice Jian Xiaoping increasing his speed. He continued to follow Jian Xiaoping at a leisurely pace. From the beginning to the end, he did not increase his speed, because he knew that Jian Xiaoping would not dare to really dump him. He would definitely wait for him. The facts proved that this was indeed the case. When Duan Lingtian unhurriedly caught up with Jian Xiaoping, who had stopped to wait for him, Jian Xiaoping's face was completely gloomy. His eyes were burning with rage, as if they could burn everything. He wanted to test the purple-clad young man, who was about to become a chiliarch of the Black Dragon Army. Unexpectedly, the other party completely ignored his probing. Although Jian Xiaoping brought Duan Lingtian all the way here with a cold face, he did not give Duan Lingtian any face. However, when he brought Duan Lingtian to a vast valley, the ice on his face seemed to melt in an instant, and was replaced by a respectful expression. Lord Commander, Jian Xiaoping took the lead and landed in front of the tent in the middle of the valley. He respectfully bowed to the tent. When Duan Lingtian caught up with Jian Xiaoping, he discovered that there were 10 other tents in the tent as well. In the middle of the valley, there were 10 other tents. Since the middle one belongs to the commander of the Black Dragon Army, then these 10 tents should belong to the 10 chiliarchs of the Black Dragon Army. But this place really deserves to be the core of the immortal stone vein that's closest to this area. The density of the spirit energy of the heavens and the earth here is utterly not something that other places can compare to. Even the cultivation environment outside of this valley is several times worse than here. Duan Lingtian could not help but feel intoxicated when he sensed the dense heaven and earth spirit energy in the valley. Is there anything you need? After Jian Xiaoping bowed towards the tent at the center of the valley and respectfully called out Lord Commander, a deep and resonant voice sounded from within the tent at the right time. Lord Commander, the person next to me has found Captain Huang Jiabing's identity token. Jian Xiaoping replied. As soon as Jian Xiaoping finished speaking, a voice rang in the air. Whoosh! It was as though a gust of wind had blown past as a person appeared out of thin air in front of Jian Xiaoping and Duan Lingtian. It was a middle-aged man with a curly beard. He had a stocky build and was dressed in a gold-trimmed black robe. The commander of the Black Dragon Army, Chen Xianba? Duan Lingtian thought to himself as he raised an eyebrow. Previously, when he was in the restaurant in Bloody Spectre City, he had heard the waiter mention the 2 commanders of the Silverworm Army and the Black Dragon Army. It was at that time that he learned the names of the 2 commanders. For this reason, he knew the commander of the Black Dragon Army was Chen Xianba. You're the one who found the identity token of Captain Huang Jiabing of the Black Dragon Army? Chen Xianba did not even look at Jian Xiaoping. Instead, he looked at Duan Lingtian and asked in a deep voice. Faced with Chen Xianba's gaze and Chen Xianba's divine consciousness, Duan Lingtian remained calm. He raised his hand and took out the identity token he found in the little world left behind by the celestial king from the blissful sect, and handed it to Chen Xianba. Whoosh! When Chen Xianba raised his hand, the identity token in Duan Lingtian's hand was pulled by an invisible force into Chen Xianba's hand. That's right. This is the identity token of Captain Huang Jiabing of the Black Dragon Army. Chen Xianba nodded after looking at the identity token for a moment. There were a total of 10 identity tokens in the Black Dragon Army, and all of them looked the same. However, Chen Xianba, the commander of the Black Dragon Army, had left his mark on each of the identity tokens. For this reason, Chen Xianba could easily identify the identity tokens. Where did you find this identity token? Chen Xianba looked at Duan Lingtian meaningfully after he confirmed the identity token in his hand was indeed Duan Lingtian. It's in the little world in the mountains south of Bloody Spectre City. Duan Lingtian did not beat around the bush. Swoosh! Swoosh! As soon as Duan Lingtian finished speaking, Jian Xiaoping and Chen Xianba's expressions changed drastically. You mean, you entered that small world and came out alive? Chen Xianba glared at Duan Lingtian, as a majestic aura surged out of his body and pressed down on Duan Lingtian. He wanted to pressure Duan Lingtian, so that Duan Lingtian would not dare to lie. Lord Commander, this person is clearly spouting nonsense. Before Duan Lingtian could say anything, Jian Xiaoping said, even the strongest city lord of Bloody Spectre City wouldn't dare to say that he would be able to leave that small world. Just as Jian Xiaoping was about to say something, he was interrupted by Chen Xuanba's sharp gaze. What? Do you think I'm that stupid to be fooled by him? Do you think I need you to remind me of this? Sensing Chen Xianba's sharp gaze, Jian Xiaoping was so scared that his face turned pale, but he didn't dare to continue speaking. Yes. Seeing that Chen Xuanba's gaze had returned to him, Duan Lingtian's expression didn't change as he replied. That little world, let alone the strongest city governor of Bloody Spectre City, even the strongest county governor of 9 Spectres County wouldn't dare to say he could come out alive after entering it. Chen Xuanba asked in a deep voice, how did you get out of there? From Chen Xuanba's point of view, even though he couldn't see through the cultivation of the person before him, it could only mean that the other party knew how to conceal his cultivation. It was impossible for this person to be as strong as the county governor of 9 Spectres County. In fact, it was impossible for this person to be as strong as the city governor of Bloody Spectre City. Otherwise, why would he come to the Black Dragon Army's camp with the identity token of the fallen Chiliarch of the Black Dragon Army? Since he was here, it meant that he wanted to replace the fallen Chiliarch of the Black Dragon Army as the new Chiliarch. Let alone someone stronger than the county governor of 9 Spectres County, even someone stronger than the city governor of Bloody Spectre City, would not be interested in the position of Chiliarch of the Black Dragon Army. Such an existence would not only look down on the position of Chiliarch of the Black Dragon Army, but also his current position as the commander of the Black Dragon Army. It was an expert who brought me out of that small world. Duan Lingtian blurted out the words that he had long thought of. Although it was a lie, it sounded so real that there was no flaw in it at all. That expert was extremely powerful. Based on his words, it was as though he didn't care about great overarching golden celestials. He also said the little world was left behind by a celestial king from the blissful sect. He had entered the little world to retrieve his sect's guarding celestial weapon. The sect's guarding celestial weapon was a horsetail whisk. He called it the world-cleansing horsetail whisk. Duan Lingtian stared at Chen Xuanba intently when he reached the end of his sentence. Duan Lingtian had only said this because he wanted to know which sect's guarding celestial weapon the world-cleansing horsetail whisk belonged to. That way, he would be able to find out which sect Morong Bing was from. The blissful sect? A celestial king? Chen Xuanba's expression changed drastically when he heard Duan Lingtian's words. His eyes widened in shock. After a moment, Chen Xuanba muttered to himself, no wonder so many powerhouses from the blissful sect died in the little world. As it turns out, The little world was left behind by a celestial king from the blissful sect. The blissful sect recently had a celestial king. I think it was around 10,000 years ago. Calculating the time, it should be around the time that the small world appeared. Chapter 2596. Immortal King Expert? Jian Xiaoping, a chiliarch of the Black Dragon Army, was stunned when he heard Duan Lingtian say that the little world, that had existed for 10,000 years, was left behind by a celestial king. To him, immortal kings were existences that only existed in legends, and they were unreachable. Put aside the fact that Bloody Spectre City was only an intermediate-rank celestial kingdom, even high-rank celestial kingdoms that were far stronger than intermediate-rank celestial kingdoms did not have a celestial king. Since the blissful sect is able to produce a celestial king, I'm sure it's far stronger than a high-rank celestial kingdom. Thinking of this, Jian Xiaoping could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. High-rank celestial kingdoms were far more powerful than low-rank and intermediate-rank celestial kingdoms. And for a sect that was far above a high-grade immortal empire, how terrifying would it be? Commander Chen, since you know about the blissful sect, do you know which sect the celestial weapon, the world-cleansing horsetail whisk, belongs to? Duan Lingtian stared at Chen Xianba, the commander of the Black Dragon Army, intending to find out which sect the world-cleansing horsetail whisk belonged to. If it wasn't for this, he wouldn't have honestly told Chen Xuanba that he had brought the identity token out from that small world. Before he said that he had brought the identity token out of that small world, he already knew. If he hadn't mentioned that small world, things wouldn't have been so complicated. Once it was brought up, things would become complicated. After all, the little world had existed in the southern mountain ridge of Bloody Spectre City for 10,000 years. No one had ever heard of anyone coming out alive after entering it. But he said that he had come out alive. Anyone who knew about the horror of that small world would inevitably be shocked, and even want to know the truth. However, even though he knew that mentioning the small world would make things complicated, he still brought it up. He wanted to know which sect the celestial weapon, the world-cleansing horsetail whisk, belonged to. As long as he knew which sect the celestial weapon belonged to, he would be able to find out Murong Bing's origin. That was his ultimate goal. I've only heard of the blissful sect by chance. I know the blissful sect is a sect that surpasses the high-rank celestial kingdoms. As for the world-cleansing horsetail whisk, I've never heard of it before. I don't know which sect it belongs to. Chen Xuanba shook his head. Hearing Chen Xuanba's words, Duan Lingtian couldn't help but feel a little disappointed. After all, the reason Duan Lingtian had spoken so much was to find out from Chen Xianba which sect's celestial artifact was the world-cleansing horsetail whisk and Murong Bing's origin. Unexpectedly, even Chen Xuanba didn't know about it. The only thing that comforted Duan Lingtian was that he had gained something. At the very least, he had learned from Chen Xianba that the blissful sect was a sect that surpassed even high-rank celestial kingdoms. I've heard from the waiter that Bloody Spectre City and Nine Spectres County are considered intermediate celestial kingdoms. A high-rank celestial kingdom is even stronger than the intermediate celestial kingdom I'm in. The blissful sect is stronger than a high-rank celestial kingdom. If that's the case, the sect she's in is most likely a powerful sect that surpasses even high-rank celestial kingdoms. Duan Lingtian could not help but speculate that Murong Bing's sect was also stronger than a high-rank celestial kingdom. Earlier, Duan Lingtian had learned from the waiter that the blissful sect's celestial artifact was a high-rank celestial artifact. The celestial kingdom he was in was an intermediate celestial kingdom. Celestial kingdoms were divided into low-rank, intermediate, and high-rank celestial kingdoms. Each celestial kingdom was independent of the other. However, the more powerful the celestial kingdom was, the better the cultivation environment and cultivation resources it had. The more complicated the celestial kingdom was, the stronger the celestial kingdom was. It's your good fortune to be able to meet that powerhouse in the little world and be taken away by him. Chen Xianba looked at Duan Lingtian meaningfully. To be honest, he didn't take me away from the little world. When I entered the little world, I found the identity token of a chiliarch of the Black Dragon Army beside the corpse before I fainted. Duan Lingtian looked at the identity token in Chen Xianba's hand and said, "When I woke up, I was already outside the little world. Moreover, I appeared in the valley where the entrance to the little world was located. However, when I woke up, I discovered the entrance to the little world had disappeared. I don't know if the small world disappeared along with it." Duan Lingtian continued to say, "The entrance to the little world has disappeared?" Chen Xianba was still skeptical of Duan Lingtian's words when he heard Duan Lingtian's words. However, Chen Xianba no longer had any doubts when he heard what Duan Lingtian said. After all, the little world had existed for 10,000 years. The entrance to the little world had also existed for 10,000 years. Since it had disappeared, something extraordinary must have happened. That extraordinary thing was clearly not something that the purple-clothed young man before him could do. As for the disappearance of the entrance to the little world, Chen Xianba was not worried the purple-clad young man would lie to him. This was something that could be verified at any time. It did not matter if he personally made a trip there or sent someone to make a trip there. In fact, it would not even take half a day for him to be certain. He would know if what Duan Lingtian said about the disappearance of the entrance to the little world was true or false. In that case, you were able to find this identity token purely because of luck? Chen Xianba asked Duan Lingtian, as he weighed the identity token in his hand. You can say that. Duan Lingtian nodded. He did not deny it. Whoosh! As soon as Duan Lingtian finished speaking, the sound of wind whistling in the air rang in the air. It shot toward Duan Lingtian. Without any warning, Chen Xianba tossed the Black Dragon Army's captain identity token to Duan Lingtian. Although it seemed as though he was giving the token to Duan Lingtian, he had other intentions. It was obvious he was testing Duan Lingtian. Faced with the incoming identity token, Duan Lingtian's celestial origin energy surged out of his body, through his 99 heavenly veins. Moreover, his celestial origin energy had been raised by 2 levels, through his 99 heavenly veins. Although he did not cast any assist-type divine abilities, it was as good as the elementary devouring tactic. This was due to his 99 heavenly veins that had been tempered thousands of times. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. When Duan Lingtian's celestial origin energy surged out of his body, it had reached the standard of a violet moon heavenly celestial. This was because Duan Lingtian had not used the assist-type divine ability, the elementary devouring tactic. Otherwise, his celestial origin energy would have been raised by 2 levels. He did not use the assist-type divine ability, because he did not think it was necessary. Smack! When Duan Lingtian caught the identity token that Chen Xianba had thrown at him with his right hand, that contained a vast amount of celestial origin energy, he felt a strong force that numbed his hand. At once, he subconsciously took a few steps back. Only then did he manage to offset the recoil contained in the token. Violet Moon Heavenly Celestial? Chen Xianba raised an eyebrow. Based on Duan Lingtian's reaction when he caught the identity token, he could tell the celestial origin energy on Duan Lingtian's body was at the level of a Violet Moon Heavenly Celestial. For this reason, he concluded that Duan Lingtian was a Violet Moon Heavenly Celestial. Violet Moon Heavenly Celestial? Although Chen Xianba's voice was not loud, Jian Xiaoping, who was standing at the side, heard him clearly. As it turns out, he's just a Violet Moon Heavenly Celestial. When Jian Xiaoping looked at Duan Lingtian again, the disdain in his eyes grew even more intense. At the same time, his heart, which had been hanging in the air earlier, gradually relaxed. Previously, there were 3 centurions in the Black Dragon Army who were Scarlet Sun Golden Celestials. As the weakest among the Kiliarchs in the Black Dragon Army, Jian Xiaoping had also felt threatened. Although the other 2 centurions had become Scarlet Sun Golden Celestials, their overall strength was still slightly weaker than him. Only the centurion under his command, who had become a Scarlet Sun Golden Celestial, was not any weaker than him. Therefore, he was not confident he would be able to defeat the centurion. Moreover, this was before Duan Lingtian had entered closed-door cultivation. After entering closed-door cultivation, He was certain Duan Lingtian would only be stronger than him. Initially, Jian Xiaoping had thought he would be overtaken by the centurion under his command. For this reason, he could not help but feel anxious. Now that he found out Duan Lingtian was only a violet moon heavenly celestial, he no longer had to worry about Duan Lingtian. After all, his position as a Chiliarch would not be shaken. A mere violet moon heavenly celestial wants to become a Chiliarch in the Black Dragon army? What a joke! Jian Xiaoping sneered. I'll keep my promise. At the same time, Chen Xianba looked at Duan Lingtian and said, I'll announce to the Black Dragon army that you'll be appointed as the new Chiliarch. However, whether you'll be able to hold on to your position will depend on your own ability. To be honest, with your current cultivation base, I'm afraid you won't be able to hold on to your position. However, even if you can't secure your position as a Chiliarch, you can still settle down as a centurion for a period of time. You can think about reclaiming your position as a Chiliarch when you become a golden celestial. Chen Xianba reminded Duan Lingtian to take precautions against Duan Lingtian. What's your name? Chen Xianba asked as he looked at Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian. Chapter 2597. Duan Lingtian has found Captain Huang Jiabing's identity token. I, Chen Xianba, the commander of the Black Dragon Army, hereby honor my promise and appoint Duan Lingtian as the new captain of the Black Dragon Army. He will be in charge of the 1,000 soldiers under Captain Huang Jiabing's command. Chen Xianba, the commander of the Black Dragon Army, said loudly when he heard Duan Lingtian's name. His voice that was laced with celestial origin energy spread through the entire Black Dragon Army's camp in just a blink of an eye. Everyone in the Black Dragon Army's camp heard Chen Xuanba's voice clearly at this moment. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. As soon as Chen Xianba finished speaking, 3 figures flew out of the 3 captains' tents and stood next to Duan Lingtian, Chen Xianba, and Jian Xiaoping. Lord Commander! Lord Commander! After greeting Chen Xianba, the 3 captains turned to look at Duan Lingtian in unison. Captain Duan Lingtian, my name is Huji. I'm also a captain of the Black Dragon Army. I look forward to your guidance in the future. The kind-looking old man among the 3 captains greeted Duan Lingtian. Zhao Dongxing, the other young man whose expression had not changed since he appeared, nodded slightly at Duan Lingtian. He did not say anything else after he introduced himself, as though he was a man of few words. Captain Duan Lingtian, please don't mind him. Captain Zhao Dongxing has always been a man of few words. You'll get used to it after you spend some time with him. The last middle-aged man with a smile on his face said to Duan Lingtian. I'm Kai Wenyu, a captain of the Black Dragon Army. I look forward to your guidance in the future, Captain Duan Lingtian. I'm Duan Lingtian. I'll be in your care in the future, Chiliarchs. Duan Lingtian responded to the 3 Chiliarchs with a smile. Gentlemen, this Duan Lingtian is only a violet moon heavenly celestial. I don't know how long he'll be a Chiliarch, so you don't have to be too friendly with him. With his strength, he can only be a centurion in the Black Dragon Army. At this moment, Jian Xiaoping, who was standing at the side, purposely reminded the 3 Chiliarchs of the Black Dragon Army. Violet moon heavenly immortal? The old man, Hu Ji, frowned when he heard Jian Xiaoping's words. His kind face turned cold and indifferent. The smile on the face of the Chiliarch named Kai Wenyu froze at this moment. A look of disdain flashed in the depths of his eyes. Only Zhao Dongxing, the captain of the Black Dragon Army, merely glanced at Duan Lingtian in surprise. He did not reveal any other emotions. His expression did not change much compared to the other 2 Chiliarchs of the Black Dragon Army. After that, Hu Ji and Kai Wenyu greeted Chen Xianba, the commander of the Black Dragon Army, and returned to their respective tents. From the beginning until the end, they did not even look at Duan Lingtian. It was as though they would lose their flesh if they looked at Duan Lingtian. Zhao Dongxing was the only one who nodded at Chen Xianba and Duan Lingtian before returning to his tent. Duan Lingtian was not surprised by Hu Ji and Kai Wenyu's sudden change in attitude. When Jian Xiaoping said he was only a violet moon heavenly celestial, he did not plan to explain himself. He had already guessed this would happen. He did not expect Zhao Dongxing would take the initiative to greet him. Before he left after learning, he was only a violet moon heavenly celestial. For a moment, Duan Lingtian's impression of Zhao Dongxing improved. Captain Duan Lingtian. At the same time, Chen Xianba, the commander of the Black Dragon Army, called out to Duan Lingtian as he pointed at a tent in the south. That's Captain Huang Jibing's tent. As long as you're a captain of the Black Dragon Army, this tent is yours. Upon hearing this, Duan Lingtian turned to look at the tent Chen Xianba pointed at. His eyes lit up immediately. After all, he had come to the Black Dragon Army's camp for the cultivation environment here. Now that Chen Xianba had spoken, he finally had a place to stay in the Black Dragon Army's camp. Moreover, this place had the best cultivation environment in the entire Black Dragon Army's camp. Even in the vicinity of Bloody Spectre City, the cultivation environment here was second only to the cultivation room the city governor of Bloody Spectre City usually used. Naturally, the cultivation environment here was comparable to the cultivation room of the city governor of Bloody Spectre City. At the very least, he was satisfied for now. Captain Jian Xiaoping. Soon after, Chen Xianba turned to look at Jian Xiaoping and said indifferently, "Now, you'll bring Captain Duan Lingtian to meet the soldiers who are guarding the Black Dragon Army's base. At the very least, he'll get to know them better." "Yes, Lord Commander." Although Jian Xiaoping was extremely unwilling, he still obeyed Chen Xianba's order obediently. Chen Xianba returned to his tent. Jian Xiaoping looked at Duan Lingtian coldly and said, "I really don't know what Lord Commander is thinking. With your cultivation base, it's impossible for you to stay as a captain of the Black Dragon Army for long. Under such circumstances, there's no need for you to meet the soldiers under Chiliarch Huang Jibing's command." In the end, Jian Xiaoping voiced out his thoughts. "What, Captain Jian Xiaoping, are you planning to disobey Commander Chen's order?" Duan Lingtian asked as he looked at Jian Xiaoping indifferently. Upon hearing Duan Lingtian's words, Jian Xiaoping's expression changed drastically. He glared at Duan Lingtian before he led the way. After all, he was only saying it out loud. He did not dare to disobey the Black Dragon Army's Lord Commander's order. "Duan Lingtian, since you've joined the Black Dragon Army, you must address the Lord Commander as Lord Commander when you see him. It'll be disrespectful to the Lord Commander if you continue to address him as Commander Chen." When Duan Lingtian caught up to them, Jian Xiaoping lectured Duan Lingtian in a condescending tone. However, Duan Lingtian ignored him. Not only did Duan Lingtian not respond to him, but he did not even raise an eyebrow. Suddenly, Jian Xiaoping's face darkened. Following that, he no longer tried to provoke Duan Lingtian. He kept quiet and led Duan Lingtian to the tents of the 1,000 soldiers under Huang Jibing, the former captain of the Black Dragon Army. The Black Dragon Army's camp was divided into 11 areas. One of the areas was where the tents of the Black Dragon Army's commander and Captain Huang were. As long as the Black Dragon Army's commander and Captain Huang did not leave the Black Dragon Army's camp, they would cultivate there. As for the other 10 areas, there were 1,000 tents each for 1,000 Black Dragon Army soldiers to live in. The 1,000 Black Dragon Army soldiers in each area were under the command of a Captain Huang. Chapter 2598. Although the soldiers of the Black Dragon Army were united in front of outsiders, there were still some conflicts between them. In fact, it was not uncommon for there to be conflicts between the soldiers of the Black Dragon Army. Usually, the soldiers of the Black Dragon Army, under the command of the weaker Chiliarch, would be wary of the soldiers of the Black Dragon Army, under the command of the stronger Chiliarch. After all, if things got out of hand, the one who would be at a disadvantage would be the one with the weaker Chiliarch. In the past, Huang Jibing was ranked in the top 3 among the 10 Chiliarchs in the Black Dragon Army. No one dared to provoke the 1,000 soldiers of the Black Dragon Army under his command. Therefore, they had always felt superior. Some time ago, the soldiers of the Black Dragon Army under Captain Huang Jibing's command learned of the death of their captain. Apart from grieving over the death of their captain, They were also worried that they would have a hard time in the future. After all, the next Chiliarch might not be as strong as their previous Chiliarch. Due to this reason, when they found out there was a new captain in the Black Dragon Army, who used to be under Captain Huang Jibing's command, they were a little nervous. This was because they did not know how strong the new Chiliarch was. If the new Chiliarch was too weak, they would no longer feel superior in front of the other soldiers of the Black Dragon Army. Moreover, many soldiers of the Black Dragon Army would come looking for trouble with them because of old grudges. In the past, when Huang Jibing was still around, the soldiers of the Black Dragon Army did not dare to look for trouble with them. Now that Captain Huang Jibing was gone, the soldiers of the Black Dragon Army would certainly not let go of the opportunity to settle scores and add insult to injury when the new captain was not strong enough. Just as the soldiers of the Black Dragon Army under Huang Jibing's command were feeling anxious, a voice rang out from the Black Dragon Army. Soldiers of the former Chiliarch Huang Jibing, come out and welcome your new Chiliarch, Duan Lingtian. A loud voice rang out from high up in the sky, and it reached the ears of the Black Dragon Army that was originally under Captain Huang Jibing's command, startling them back to their senses. The new Chiliarch is here? This voice sounds like Chiliarch Jian Xiuping. It seems like the new Chiliarch followed him here. Logically speaking, since a new Chiliarch has replaced Chiliarch Huang Jibing, he should have come to meet us. I wonder what his temper is like, and if he's easy to get along with. I don't care what his temper is like, and I don't care if he's easy to get along with. I just hope that even if he's not as good as Captain Huang Jibing, he won't be too much weaker than Captain Huang Jibing. When they heard that the new Chiliarch had arrived, the soldiers of the Black Dragon Army, who were originally under Huang Jibing's command, all leaped into the air and flew toward the source of the voice. Along the way, they couldn't help but discuss spiritedly. Most of them only hoped that their new Chiliarch would not be too weak. As for the rest, they didn't care. High up in the sky, Duan Lingtian, who was dressed in purple, walked in the air with his hands behind his back. He followed behind Jian Xiuping at a moderate pace and arrived at the sky above the few valleys. When he looked down, he saw that there were many tents in the valleys. There were only slightly more than 100 tents in the valleys that were filled with birds chirping and flowers blooming. They were rather sparsely spaced. These tents should be the tents of the centurions and decurions under my command. It was not difficult for Duan Lingtian to figure this out. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. The sound of wind whistling rang in Duan Lingtian's ears. Small black dots appeared in his field of vision. It was like a swarm of locusts as they flew toward the area where he and Jian Xiuping were standing. With just a glance, Duan Lingtian could see there were about 700 to 800 people from the Black Dragon Army who had leaped into the air. He was not surprised by this. Although he had 1,000 Black Dragon Army soldiers under his command, he was certain some of them were not here because they were on a mission. Captain Jian Xiuping, you've already fulfilled Commander Chen's orders. There's no need for you to take care of the rest. Duan Lingtian looked at Jian Xiuping, who stood at the side like a block of wood, and said nonchalantly, Captain Jian Xiuping, you don't have to worry about me anymore. Captain Duan Lingtian, don't be anxious. I'll wait for them to arrive and speak to them before leaving. Jian Xiuping smiled faintly as a hint of cunning flashed in his eyes. What? Are you going to tell them that their captain is just a violet moon heavenly celestial? Duan Lingtian looked at Jian Xiuping calmly, as though he could see through Jian Xiuping. Humph. Jian Xiuping scoffed when he heard Duan Lingtian's words. Then, he stood where he was and waited for the Black Dragon Army soldiers under Duan Lingtian's command to arrive. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. A gentle breeze blew as more than 800 Black Dragon Army soldiers appeared in front of Duan Lingtian in a neat formation. They were divided into 3 groups. There were only 8 people in the first group. There were only 70 people in the second group. There were more than 700 people in the third group. Although the black armors worn by these 3 groups of people looked exactly the same at first glance, the marks on the badges on the chest of their black armors were not the same. Centurions, decurions, ordinary soldiers, Based on the badges on their chests, it was not difficult for Duan Lingtian to identify the Black Dragon Army soldiers. The 8 people in the first group were centurions from the Black Dragon Army. The second group were decurions from the Black Dragon Army. And the third group were ordinary soldiers from the Black Dragon Army. Greetings, Lord Captain. Greetings, Lord Captain. Led by the 8 centurions, the decurions and ordinary soldiers of the Black Dragon Army saluted Duan Lingtian and Jian Xiaoping. Lord Commander asked me to bring your Chiliarch here to meet you. Now that I've brought him here, it's time to leave. After more than 800 Black Dragon Army soldiers bowed to Duan Lingtian and Jian Xiaoping looked at the soldiers in front of him and said with a smile, "However, all of you have to cherish this opportunity to spend time with your new captain." The soldiers of the Black Dragon Army were puzzled by Jian Xiaoping's words. Jian Xiaoping continued, "After all, he's only a Violet Moon Heavenly Celestial. I'm afraid he won't be able to hold on to his position for long." After saying this, Jian Xiaoping laughed loudly and left like a gust of wind. For a time, the entire place fell into a dead silence. The 800 Black Dragon Army soldiers no longer looked at Duan Lingtian cautiously. Instead, a hint of disappointment could be seen in their eyes. The 8 centurions, in particular, had a deep frown on their faces. A Violet Moon Heavenly Celestial. Lord Huang Jibing's identity token was found by a Violet Moon Heavenly Celestial? God is playing a big joke on us. After learning that Duan Lingtian was only a Violet Moon Heavenly Celestial from Jian Xiaoping, the 8 centurions of the Black Dragon Army, who were once Captain Huang Jibing's subordinates, were disappointed. The decurions of the Black Dragon Army began to cause a ruckus when they regained their senses. "Shut up, all of you." Duan Lingtian's expression darkened when he heard the commotion. He shouted coldly, suppressing the voices of the Black Dragon Army soldiers, causing them to fall silent. "All of you, do you think I don't exist?" At this moment, Duan Lingtian's expression was as dark as it could get. Even if he was only going to be a Chiliarch for a few more days, he was now the leader of the Black Dragon Army. He was their Chiliarch. However, the soldiers of the Black Dragon Army did not treat him as their Chiliarch at all. Did they really think Duan Lingtian was a pushover? Humph. One of the centurions scoffed when he heard Duan Lingtian's words. He said disdainfully, "You're just a Violet Moon Heavenly Celestial. Even if you're promoted to captain through the back door, you won't be able to stay in that position for long. Why are you putting on airs in front of us when you're weak?" A sneer appeared on the centurion's face when he reached the end of his sentence. However, the sneer on the centurion's face froze as soon as it appeared. At the same time, bang! The sound of a heavy object crashing into the ground rang in the air. A shrill cry rang in the air as well. The centurion of the Black Dragon Army, who had regained his senses and mocked Duan Lingtian, seemed to have been sent flying by something. He cried out in pain and spat out a mouthful of blood. Blood stained the sky. It was a dazzling sight. At the same time, the other centurions who had just regained their senses and were about to say something shut their mouths. They could tell from the collision earlier that Duan Lingtian's strength was not ordinary. There was no way their new captain was just a Violet Moon Heavenly Celestial. After all, as centurions of the Black Dragon Army, they were all Violet Moon Heavenly Celestials as well. Even so, it was difficult for them to catch the movements of their captain. They put themselves in Duan Lingtian's shoes. If they were in Duan Lingtian's shoes, they would not have been able to escape even if they were prepared. "Captain, please calm down," one of the centurions who looked like an old man said in a trembling voice, as he kneeled before Duan Lingtian, when he regained his senses. The Black Dragon Army had rules. Those who disobeyed their superiors had the right to kill them. Chapter 2599. Please calm down, Lord Chiliarch. Please calm down, Lord Chiliarch. The remaining centurions, including the centurion who was injured by Duan Lingtian, knelt on the ground. They lowered their heads, not daring to look at Duan Lingtian. At this moment, they couldn't help but curse Jian Xiaoping in their hearts. If Jian Xiaoping did not say their new captain was only a Violet Moon Heavenly Celestial, they would not have acted so rudely in front of him and offended him. At the same time, the decurions who had regained their senses followed suit when they saw the centurions kneeling on the ground. The ordinary soldiers did the same as well. The centurions and decurions had knelt on the ground. They did not dare to not kneel even if they were given 100 guts. For a time, Duan Ling Tian was the only one left standing in the vast sky like a crane among chickens. He was like a high and mighty emperor, surrounded by his subjects who were kneeling on the ground, like a myriad of stars surrounding the moon. Humph! Duan Ling Tian glanced at the kneeling Black Dragon Army soldiers and said indifferently, "I hope there won't be a next time. Now all of you are dismissed." As soon as he finished speaking, Duan Ling Tian, who was in a hurry to return to his tent to cultivate, disappeared from the kneeling Black Dragon Army soldiers in just a blink of an eye. His speed was so fast that it was as though he had vanished into thin air. After Duan Ling Tian left, the Black Dragon Army soldiers finally rose to their feet under the lead of a few centurions. Most of them still had a lingering expression on their faces. "We were all tricked by that Chiliarch Jian Xiuping. Our new Chiliarch is definitely stronger than him." The centurion who was injured by Duan Ling Tian gnashed his teeth as he spoke hatefully. Although he was injured by Duan Ling Tian, he did not blame Duan Ling Tian. Nevertheless, he did not blame Duan Ling Tian at all. Duan Ling Tian was his direct superior, and Duan Ling Tian was already being merciful by not killing him for being disrespectful to him. If Jian Xiuping had not deliberately misled him, he would not have dared to act so presumptuously in front of his superior, the new Chiliarch, even if he was given 100 guts. Meanwhile, after leaving the Black Dragon Army's tents, Duan Ling Tian returned to his own tent. After he entered his tent, he sat down cross-legged and took out a mediocre celestial stone to cultivate. Cultivating in the Devata realms was similar to cultivating in the mundane realms. Apart from absorbing the heaven and earth spirit energy, one could also absorb celestial stones, which were similar to the saint stones in the mundane realms. As expected of one of the best cultivation environments in Bloody Spectre City, with the help of the mediocre celestial stones and the 99 heavenly veins in my body, it won't take long for me to break through and become an indigo moon heavenly celestial. After a moment of excitement, Duan Ling Tian once again immersed himself in his cultivation. The others in the Black Dragon Army were unaware of Duan Ling Tian's thoughts. Otherwise, they would have been shocked by his actions. As a captain of the Black Dragon Army, his cultivation base was only a blue moon heavenly celestial. In the Black Dragon Army, a blue moon heavenly celestial was the minimum requirement to become a decanus. At this moment, Jian Xiuping, the captain of the Black Dragon Army, was trying his best to spread the news that Duan Ling Tian was only a violet moon heavenly celestial. However, he would never have dreamed that Duan Ling Tian was not a violet moon heavenly celestial. Duan Ling Tian was merely a blue moon heavenly celestial. Even so, Jian Xiuping's efforts to spread the news still shocked the soldiers stationed in the Black Dragon Army's camp. Of course, that didn't include the 800 Black Dragon Army soldiers under Duan Ling Tian. However, when the 800 soldiers of the Black Dragon Army under Duan Ling Tian's command heard that their new captain was only a violet moon heavenly celestial, they were furious. "Is it true that our new Chiliarch is only a violet moon celestial? Did Jian Xiuping spread the news again? If it's really Jian Xiuping, what is he trying to do?" As everyone knows, as long as Qin Yu, the centurion under Jian Xiuping, comes out of his closed-door training, Jian Xiuping will most likely be replaced by Qin Yu and demoted to a centurion. In my opinion, Jian Xiuping wants to shift Qin Yu's spearhead to our Lord Chiliarch. Despicable. How despicable. When the soldiers of the Black Dragon Army under Duan Ling Tian's command thought about how Jian Xiuping had tricked them, they were displeased. They began to spread out and refuted Jian Xiuping's words. Their new captain was not a violet moon heavenly celestial. I, Tongzheng, am a centurion under Duan Ling Tian's command, a violet moon heavenly celestial. I didn't even have a chance to react before I was injured by Lord Duan Ling Tian. If Lord Duan Ling Tian is only a violet moon heavenly celestial, How could he be so strong? The centurion who was injured by Duan Ling Tian earlier did not hesitate to reveal his embarrassing incident so that Duan Ling Tian, the new captain, would have a good reputation. Under the guidance of the soldiers of the Black Dragon Army under Duan Ling Tian's command, many people began to believe that Duan Ling Tian was not just a violet moon heavenly celestial. They believed that his strength was on par with Jian Xiaoping, the weakest of the 10 captains in the Black Dragon Army. When the news reached Jian Xiaoping's ears, his face turned green. Those fellows, do they really think they can keep Duan Ling Tian in the Black Dragon Army by spreading fake news? So what if they think I'm not as good as Duan Ling Tian? At most, after I'm defeated and replaced by Qin Yu, I'll personally challenge Duan Ling Tian and ask him to give up his position as captain. At that time, I'll be the superior of all of you troublemakers. Let's see how I'll deal with all of you then. Jian Xiaoping's eyes burned with anger when he thought about this. He could not wait to replace Duan Ling Tian as the new captain of the Black Dragon Army, who spread false information. Then he would teach them a lesson. In the Black Dragon Army, it was easy for a captain to mess with his subordinates. Just as Jian Xiaoping was having this thought, another shocking piece of news came from the Black Dragon Army under Jian Xiaoping's command. Centurion Qin Yu has come out of his closed-door cultivation and is challenging his superior, Captain Jian Xiaoping. Jian Xiaoping only heard about this when half of the Black Dragon Army's camp had been spread. Qin Yu, Jian Xiaoping's expression darkened. His eyes seemed to be on fire. Even you think I'm not as good as Duan Ling Tian, who's only a violet moon heavenly celestial? Do you think I'm easy to bully? Jian Xiaoping was furious. He was completely furious. When Jian Xiaoping saw Qin Yu and questioned him, Qin Yu replied in a manner that was neither servile nor overbearing. Captain, I've issued a challenge to you as soon as I came out of closed-door cultivation. At that time, I didn't have time to hear about Captain Duan Ling Tian. Qin Yu was a tall and handsome young man. He was clad in the black armor of the Black Dragon Army, which made him look valiant. Compared to the soldiers of the Black Dragon Army, he was like a crane in a flock of chickens. At this moment, Qin Yu and his superior, Captain Jian Xiaoping, were standing opposite each other. The soldiers of the Black Dragon Army under Jian Xiaoping's command were not the only ones gathered around them. There were also many soldiers under the command of other captains. It was human nature to join in the fun. Even Celestials were no exception to this. Now that you know, are you going to change your mind and challenge Duan Ling Tian instead of me? Jian Xiaoping asked in a deep voice as he looked at Qin Yu. The anger in his voice had dissipated. At this moment, he thought Qin Yu would give up on challenging him and challenge the Duan Ling Tian, who was only a violet moon heavenly celestial instead. For this reason, the anger in his heart had subsided a lot. However, he did not expect Qin Yu to challenge Qin Yu. He did not expect Qin Yu to give him a way out. There's no need for that. Qin Yu looked at Jian Xiaoping calmly and said indifferently, Captain, I'm not interested in an unfamiliar environment. I think it's good to be the captain of a group of brothers. Therefore, I'm going to challenge you. Qin Yu's tone became heavier when he reached the end of his sentence. Just as the gazes of the surrounding black armored army soldiers landed on Jian Xiaoping, preparing to watch him fight Qin Yu suddenly stopped. However, something unexpected happened. Good. Very good. Jian Xiaoping stared at Qin Yu with an ice-cold gaze. He said in a deep voice, Since you want the position of Chiliarch so much, then, I will give you the position of Chiliarch on account of the fact that you worked so hard for me in the past. Qin Yu was stunned when he heard Jian Xiaoping's words. As far as he knew, based on Jian Xiaoping's character, even if he knew he was no match for Qin Yu, it was impossible for him to admit defeat so easily. However, it was a fact that Jian Xiaoping had admitted defeat. Therefore, Qin Yu quickly regained his senses and looked at Jian Xiaoping. He said indifferently, Thank you, Captain. No, from now on, I'll call you Centurion Jian Xiaoping. Since Jian Xiaoping had admitted defeat, then his position as the 1,000-man commander was naturally replaced by Qin Yu. As for Jian Xiaoping, he was reduced to being a centurion under Qin Yu, the new 1,000-man commander. Just as the crowd was stunned by Jian Xiaoping's admission of defeat, a voice suddenly rang out. I, Jian Xiaoping, hereby announce that I'll challenge Captain Duan Lingtian today. Chapter 2600. Although Jian Xiaoping was the weakest of the 10 captains in the Black Dragon army, he was still a Crimson Emperor. However, no matter what, he was still a captain of the Black Dragon army. He was a powerful Scarlet Sun Golden Celestial. Because of this, the soldiers of the Black Dragon army, who were present, had more or less heard about him, even though they had never met him before. They roughly knew what his temperament was like. With Jian Xiaoping's character, even if he knows he's no match for Qin Yu, I don't think he'll admit defeat so easily. This doesn't seem like him. What happened? Why do I feel like he's a different person now? Many of the soldiers of the Black Dragon army were dumbfounded when they saw that Jian Xiaoping had admitted defeat and given up the position of Chiliarch before even fighting Qin Yu. Some of them even thought they had misheard or were dreaming. This was especially true for the soldiers of the Black Dragon army, who used to be Jian Xiaoping's subordinates. They looked at Jian Xiaoping with a strange gaze. It was as though they had just met Jian Xiaoping for the first time. Compared to the other soldiers of the Black Dragon army, they were more familiar with Jian Xiaoping. For this reason, they found it even more unbelievable that Jian Xiaoping would admit defeat. However, after he admitted defeat to Qin Yu and relinquished his position as captain, he announced he would challenge the new captain of the Black Dragon army, Duan Lingtian. Don't tell me his admission of defeat has something to do with his intention to challenge Captain Duan? It's possible. Maybe he wants to preserve his strength, so he can challenge Captain Duan Lingtian in his best condition. After all, even if he loses, he'll still be injured and need to rest for a while. Now that you mention it, it's possible. In that case, what Jian Xiaoping did was a wise decision, wasn't it? Not only did he preserve his strength, but he could also reclaim his position as captain. Reclaim his position as captain? What do you mean? Didn't they say the new captain of the Duan Lingtian is as strong as Jian Xiaoping? Even if Jian Xiaoping challenges him, he might not necessarily win, right? I heard that the new Duan Lingtian is only a Violet Moon Heavenly Celestial. Violet Moon Heavenly Immortal is no match for Jian Xiaoping. Why is it different from what I heard? The soldiers of the Black Dragon army were divided into two factions. One of them thought Duan Lingtian was just a Violet Moon Heavenly Celestial and would be defeated by Jian Xiaoping soon. Therefore, they wanted to hand over the position of Chiliarch to Jian Xiaoping. The other faction believed that Duan Lingtian was not a Violet Moon Celestial being. Duan Lingtian's strength was no weaker than Jian Xiaoping's. It was impossible for Jian Xiaoping to replace Duan Lingtian. As the saying goes, where there are people, there are arguments. Where there were people, there would be Jianghu. The Black Dragon army's camp was bound to be lively today. First, there was the matter of Qin Yu replacing Jian Xiaoping as captain. It was the matter of Jian Xiaoping admitting defeat in front of Qin Yu and giving up the position of Chiliarch. After Jian Xiaoping passed the position of captain to Qin Yu, he declared that he would challenge the new captain, Duan Lingtian. Once the news spread throughout the Black Dragon army's camp, it caused a huge commotion. Jian Xiaoping actually dares to challenge our Chiliarch after surrendering his Chiliarch position to someone else? Does he really think our captain is just a Violet Moon Heavenly Celestial? Based on the strength our captain displayed that day, he's definitely not weaker than Jian Xiaoping. I don't think he'll be able to defeat Jian Xiaoping, but it won't be a problem for him to tie with Jian Xiaoping. Even if the fight ended in a draw, according to the rules of the Black Dragon army, Jian Xiaoping can't replace our Chiliarch as our superior. After witnessing Duan Lingtian's strength, the soldiers of the Black Dragon army were confident in Duan Lingtian. They were not worried that Jian Xiaoping would defeat Duan Lingtian. When the soldiers of the Black Dragon army returned to their tents, a thunderous snort reverberated through the valleys they were in, causing their eardrums to tremble. It's Jian Xiaoping. What's he doing here? Many of them recognized the owner of the snort. You bastards! How dare you spread false news that Duan Lingtian isn't a Violet Moon Heavenly Celestial, and that his strength is on par with mine. Just wait until I replace Duan Lingtian as your captain. You'll see how I'll deal with all of you then." When Duan Lingtian's subordinates heard Jian Xiaoping's snort, they did not even have the time to leave the tent before Jian Xiaoping's cold voice resonated in the air again. They were taken aback when they heard Jian Xiaoping's words. "I, Jian Xiaoping, a centurion, challenge Captain Duan Lingtian to a duel in the Valley of Gods of War." Jian Xiaoping's voice continued to ring in their ears. However, this time, Jian Xiaoping's voice was extremely loud. His celestial origin energy was clearly contained in his voice. As soon as he spoke, his voice rang in the Black Dragon Army's camp. Those who were not in closed-door cultivation could hear his voice. "Jian Xiaoping? A centurion? How did he become a centurion? I've just met him." Captain Hu Ji and Captain Kai Wenyu walked out of their tents and gathered in the valley, where the tents of the Black Dragon Army's commanders and captains were located. At this moment, both of them had a confused expression on their faces. Half an hour ago, Qin Yu, a centurion under Jian Xiaoping's command, came out of closed-door cultivation and challenged Jian Xiaoping. Jian Xiaoping admitted defeat, so Qin Yu has replaced Jian Xiaoping as the new captain. Currently, Jian Xiaoping is only a centurion. The person who walked out of his tent was none other than Chen Xianba, the Black Dragon Army's commander. "Lord Commander! Lord Commander!" When Hu Ji and Kai Wenyu saw Chen Xianba, they immediately bowed respectfully. After bowing to Chen Xianba, they glanced at each other and saw the shock and disbelief in each other's eyes. As captains, they were familiar with Jian Xiaoping's temperament. With Jian Xiaoping's temperament, he would never admit defeat even if he knew he was no match for Qin Yu. Someone said Jian Xiaoping admitted defeat to preserve his strength, so he could challenge Duan Lingtian. He has already announced to the entire Black Dragon Army that he wants to challenge Captain Duan Lingtian to a battle in the Valley of the Gods of War. Chen Xianba seemed to have seen through Hu Ji and Kai Wenyu's thoughts and promptly explained to them. "Preserve his strength. That's possible." Hu Ji nodded. "Even so, is there a need for him to preserve his strength against a mere violet moon heavenly celestial?" As Kai Wenyu spoke, she looked at the tent that belonged to Huang Jibing and Duan Lingtian. Her eyes were filled with disdain. "Lord Commander." At this moment, Captain Zhao Dongxing also came out of the other tent. He greeted Chen Xianba before he stood at the side and looked at Duan Lingtian's tent. As soon as Zhao Dongxing looked over, whoosh, the tent was opened, and a purple figure walked out slowly. The figure appeared in front of Chen Xianba and the other captains. The person who came out was none other than Duan Lingtian, who was awakened from his cultivation by Jian Xiaoping's voice that descended from the sky. Since Jian Xiaoping had come knocking on his door naturally, he could not sit back and do nothing. At the same time, he wanted to show those who looked down on him. With Duan Lingtian's strength, he was more than qualified to be a captain of the Black Dragon Army. "Commander, Captain Zhao Dongxing." After Duan Lingtian came out, he greeted Chen Xianba and Zhao Dongxing. As for the other two Kiliarchs, he merely glanced at them and nodded at them as a form of greeting. Duan Lingtian. Practically as soon as Duan Lingtian finished greeting Zhao Dongxing, Kai Wenyu stared at Duan Lingtian with a gloomy expression and suddenly shouted with a stern voice. "You actually addressed the commander as commander directly. Could it be that you think the commander isn't worthy of being addressed as commander before you? Do you know that you're being disrespectful to the Lord Commander?" Kai Wenyu was making a mountain out of a molehill out of a molehill. Does respect to the Lord Commander depend on how he addresses him? Duan Lingtian's expression did not change in the face of Kai Wenyu's threats. He said indifferently, "Captain Kai Wenyu, you keep addressing the Lord Commander as Lord Commander. But who knows if you've always wanted to replace the Lord Commander and become the new commander of the Black Dragon Army? You don't slander me." Kai Wenyu did not expect Duan Lingtian to accuse him. His expression changed as he glared at Duan Lingtian. "I'm just making an example. Captain Kai Wenyu, why are you so agitated? Don't tell me you're hiding something?" Duan Lingtian smiled. When he reached the end of his sentence, he looked deeply at Kai Wenyu. You, Just as Kai Wenyu was about to say something, Chen Xuanba interrupted her. Alright, it's just a form of address. As Captain Duan Ling Tian has said, whether a person truly respects me or not doesn't depend on how they address me. I can see that Captain Duan Ling Tian is not disrespectful to me. Since Chen Xuanba, the commander of the Black Dragon Army, had spoken, Kai Wenyu did not dare to continue the topic. However, he still glared at Duan Ling Tian. The fire in his eyes burned as though he wanted to burn Duan Ling Tian to death. Duan Ling Tian ignored Kai Wenyu's furious gaze. He looked at Chen Xianba and asked. Chapter 2601. The Valley of Ares was the place where the soldiers of the Black Dragon Army sparred with each other. Of course, if the soldiers of the Black Dragon Army had a life-and-death feud with each other and wanted to fight to the death, they could also sign a life-and-death contract with their superiors. Then they could fight to the death in the Valley of the Gods of War. Usually, the Valley of Ares was very lively. This was because many of the soldiers of the Black Dragon Army liked to spar here, to improve their celestial methods and divine abilities. Today, the Valley of Ares was even livelier. This was because Jian Xiaoping, who had just lost his position as captain, had announced that he would challenge the new captain of the Black Dragon Army, Duan Ling Tian. Moreover, the battle would take place in the Valley of Ares. For this reason, all the soldiers of the Black Dragon Army, who had nothing to do in the camp, rushed to the Valley of Ares. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. The Valley of the Gods of War, which had originally been rather sparsely populated, was now filled with soldiers from the Black Dragon Army. All of them were here to witness the battle between Duan Ling Tian and Jian Xiaoping. Not long after, the figures of the Black Dragon Army covered more than half of the Valley of the Ares god. It was as if they had blotted out the sun. So many people, many of the soldiers of the Black Dragon Army, who had just arrived, could not help but click their tongues when they saw the huge crowd. Of course, after all, it's not every day that there's such a huge commotion in the Black Dragon Army's camp. Now that there's such a huge commotion, it's impossible not to come. Jian Xiaoping, the former captain of the Black Dragon Army, Duan Ling Tian, the new captain of the Black Dragon Army. I wonder who will emerge victorious in the battle between the two of them. Although some people say Jian Xiaoping and Duan Ling Tian have a higher chance of winning, I think Jian Xiaoping must be confident since he's so confident. Otherwise, why would he admit defeat in front of Qinyu? Isn't he trying to preserve his strength by admitting defeat? That's right. If he wasn't confident, he wouldn't have admitted defeat in front of Qinyu. After all, Qinyu used to be his centurion. It's embarrassing for him to admit defeat without a fight. That's right. Jian Xiaoping has always valued his reputation. Today, he admitted defeat voluntarily. He must have some ulterior motive. Now it's obvious what he's trying to do. He wants to defeat the new captain of the Black Dragon Army and take back the position of captain. The soldiers of the Black Dragon Army, who were present, agreed with Jian Xiaoping. Since Jian Xiaoping dared to challenge Duan Ling Tian, it meant he was confident he could defeat Duan Ling Tian. Otherwise, he would not have made such a decision. After all, it was Duan Ling Tian. Moreover, he admitted defeat in front of Qinyu today and gave up the position of Chiliarch. If he were to lose this battle again, he would definitely become the laughingstock of the Black Dragon Army in the future. Duan Ling Tian King. Duan Ling Tian's Duan Ling Tian. Duan Lord Duan Ling Tian Dragon Duan King Army Duan. Stop dreaming. Based on what he just said, he wants to replace our Chiliarch as our Chiliarch, so that he can teach us a lesson. If he wants to teach us a lesson, we'll have to see if he has the ability to defeat our captain. Duan Ling Tian's subordinates from the Black Dragon Army had also arrived at the Valley of Ares. However, when they heard the discussion among the Black Dragon Army soldiers, they scoffed. They did not think Jian Xiaoping would be able to defeat their captain. What? Hearing what you said, your new Chiliarch's strength is actually not inferior to Jian Xiaoping's? One of the soldiers asked Duan Ling Tian's Black Dragon Army. Don't ask them. They'll definitely say their new captain is stronger. Before Duan Ling Tian's subordinates could speak, another soldier from the Black Dragon Army chimed in. Previously, they were talking about how strong their new captain is. Moreover, he's not a Violet Moon heavenly celestial as the rumors say. However, whether or not what they say is true is not necessarily credible. Today, as long as Jian Xiuping defeats their new Chiliarch, their lies will be exposed. I'm looking forward to it. Compared to them, I trust Jian Xiuping more. After all, Jian Xiuping has been a captain for many years. I've never heard of him doing anything he's not confident in. Now that you mention it, you're right. Compared to a new Chiliarch, Jian Xiuping is indeed more reliable. Soon after, in the huge Valley of Ares, apart from Duan Lingtian's Black Dragon Army soldiers, no one else believed Duan Lingtian would lose. More than 90% of the Black Dragon Army soldiers thought Duan Lingtian would lose. Many of the Black Dragon Army's soldiers, who thought Duan Lingtian had a chance of winning, changed their minds when they heard the analysis of the other soldiers. They no longer thought Duan Lingtian would win. It was as though they had been brainwashed. Centurion Jian Xiuping is here. A moment later, someone cried out in surprise. The Black Dragon Army soldiers in the Valley of Ares began to look around. Finally, they looked to the east and locked onto a figure who was walking leisurely in the air. The figure was none other than one of the main characters of the day, Jian Xiuping. Many centurions from the Black Dragon Army had come earlier. However, they had not caused much of a commotion. Jian Xiuping's arrival had caused such a commotion. Firstly, he was one of the main characters of the day. Secondly, it was because Jian Xiuping was a golden immortal and a Chiliarch of the Black Dragon Army. Whoosh! In a flash, Jian Xiuping landed on the huge stone platform in the middle of the Valley of Ares. This was the first battle arena of the Valley of Ares. Jian Xiuping placed his hands behind his back and closed his eyes to rest. He quietly waited for Duan Lingtian to arrive. Centurion Jian Xiuping looks so calm. He's very confident. Didn't I say earlier? Centurion Jian Xiuping has always been cautious. Since he dares to challenge the new captain, it means he's confident he'll win. Now all we have to do is wait for the new captain to arrive. After Jian Xiuping's arrival, the Black Dragon Army soldiers in the Valley of Ares began to look forward to the arrival of the other main character, Duan Lingtian. It's Captain Qinyu. About 15 minutes later, the Valley of Ares was once again in an uproar. Everyone's eyes were focused on the sky. There, a young man in a black robe was walking over in the air. It was none other than the new captain Qinyu. When Qinyu wore the uniform of the Black Dragon Army, he looked valiant and extraordinary. He stood out among the other soldiers in the Black Dragon Army, who wore the same uniform. Now that he had changed into casual clothes, he looked even more extraordinary. Before Qinyu appeared in the Valley of Ares, only the two centurions had caused a commotion. Although the two centurions were not as strong as Centurion Jian Xiuping, they were still centurions who had become golden celestials. For this reason, their appearance had more or less attracted the attention of some people. Moreover, they had caused a commotion among the crowd. The black armored army soldiers in the Valley of Ares were in an uproar because of Qinyu's arrival. Qinyu, standing on the first battle stage of the Valley of the War God, the centurion Jian Xiuping, who was originally resting with his eyes closed, suddenly opened his eyes and looked straight at Qinyu. "You, are you here to show off?" Jian Xiuping was originally a sensitive person. When he saw Qinyu here, his face immediately became gloomy. Once he opened his mouth, his voice also revealed extreme coldness. "Centurion Jian Xiuping, please don't misunderstand." Qinyu looked at Jian Xiuping calmly and said indifferently, "I'm here to see the new captain of the Black Dragon Army. Of course, it would be best if I could see you defeating him and replacing him." "Humph." Jian Xiuping snorted coldly and closed his eyes again, ignoring Qinyu. However, as soon as Jian Xiuping closed his eyes, he heard a few exclamations in unison, causing him to open his eyes again. "Lord Commander! Lord Commander!" In the Valley of Ares, a few soldiers from the Black Dragon Army, who were near the edge of the valley, were the first to notice the middle-aged man, who was flying in the air with 4 people. When they recognized the middle-aged man, they immediately bowed and greeted him. Lord Commander! Lord Commander! At the same time, the soldiers of the Black Dragon Army, including the centurion Jian Xiaoping and the Chiliarch Qin Yu, also bowed to the newcomer. The middle-aged man with a curly beard and a stocky build was none other than the commander of the Black Dragon Army, Chen Xianba. It's been a long time since I've seen such a lively scene. Chen Xianba took the lead and led Duan Lingtian and the other captains into the Valley of Ares. He chuckled before his eyes landed on Qin Yu. Qin Yu, congratulations on being promoted to captain of the Black Dragon Army. Thank you, Lord Commander. Qin Yu quickly thanked Chen Xianba when he arrived in front of him. In a flash, he stood behind Chen Xianba and stood side by side with Duan Lingtian and the other captains. They surrounded Chen Xianba, the commander of the Black Dragon Army. This is Duan Lingtian, the new captain of the Black Dragon Army. You can get to know each other. Chen Xianba turned his head slightly and glanced at Duan Lingtian. Captain Duan Lingtian, I'm Qin Yu. Chapter 2602. Captain Qin Yu. Duan Lingtian nodded in response to Qin Yu's greeting. Duan Lingtian had a rough idea of what had happened on the way here. As it turned out, Qin Yu was Jian Xiaoping's centurion. He had come out of his closed-door cultivation and challenged Jian Xiaoping. Since Jian Xiaoping had admitted defeat, Qin Yu had replaced Jian Xiaoping as the new captain, while Jian Xiaoping was demoted to a centurion. No wonder Jian Xiaoping called himself a centurion when he challenged me. Duan Lingtian finally understood the situation after he learned about the ins and outs of the matter. Lord Captain! Lord Captain! At the same time, a series of respectful greetings rang in Duan Lingtian's ears. Duan Lingtian narrowed his eyes and saw his subordinates from the Black Dragon Army had gathered together and bowed to him. Duan Lingtian was slightly surprised by this. Although he knew that he had intimidated his subordinates to a certain extent when he made his move last time, it was still not enough. However, he didn't expect that after that incident, this group of people's attitude towards him would change so drastically. So he's the new captain, Duan Lingtian? It should be him. Didn't you see the group of people who used to be under Captain Huang Jibing's command greeting him? Isn't he just a Violet Moon Heavenly Celestial? If he's just a Violet Moon Heavenly Celestial, there's no way these people would treat him with such respect, right? Who knows? Based on the current situation, there's no doubt everyone has their reasons. As for the new captain's strength, we'll find out after the battle between him and Jian Xiaoping. In the Valley of Ares, the Black Dragon Army soldiers looked at Duan Lingtian and sized him up. Apart from Duan Lingtian's subordinates, it was the first time the other soldiers had seen Duan Lingtian, their new Chiliarch. I didn't expect that the first time I saw the new Chiliarch would be when he was fighting another veteran Chiliarch of the Black Dragon Army, Jian Xiaoping, who had just been promoted to a centurion. I'm curious, how capable is the person who found Chiliarch Huang Jibing's identity token? I'm looking forward to this battle. The Black Dragon Army's soldiers shifted their attention to Duan Lingtian before they shifted their attention to Jian Xiaoping, who was standing in the middle of the Valley of Ares. Duan Lingtian Jian Xiaoping. He was today's main character. Duan Lingtian, you actually came. Jian Xiaoping stood on the first battle in the Valley of Ares as he stared at Duan Lingtian. His tone was filled with disdain. I thought you would hide in your tent and pretend to be in closed-door cultivation, even if you knew I was going to challenge you. I didn't expect you to come. Jian Xiaoping's words were filled with disdain. He was clearly provoking Duan Lingtian. For a moment, whoosh, 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 whoosh. Many people shifted their gazes from Jian Xiaoping to Duan Lingtian. How presumptuous! Faced with Jian Xiaoping's disdain, Duan Lingtian flew past Chen Xianba, the commander of the Black Dragon Army, and landed in the Valley of Ares where Jian Xiaoping was. Whoosh! As soon as Duan Lingtian finished speaking, he hovered in the air above the first battle and looked down at Jian Xiaoping. Whoosh! Jian Xiaoping was furious when he saw how Duan Lingtian dared to look down on him. His expression changed drastically. Whoosh! Following that, he rose into the air and hovered in the air parallel to Duanling Tian. He glared at Duanling Tian as he hovered in the air. The aura of celestial origin energy spread out from his body. It was clear that he had completed the accumulation of energy in his body in an instant. I really don't know where a mere violet moon heavenly celestial like you gets the courage to say I, Jian Xiaoping, am presumptuous. Jian Xiaoping said in a deep voice as he stared coldly at Duanling Tian. Duanling Tian looked at Jian Xiaoping calmly. However, he did not seem to care about Jian Xiaoping at all. He stood there motionless like a statue. Of course, Duanling Tian, I have to admit that you're quite capable. At the very least, you're able to get your subordinates to help and protect you in such a short time. They even spread fake news that you're not a violet moon heavenly celestial, and that you're not weaker than me. In fact, you're even stronger than me. Jian Xiaoping's expression darkened when he saw Duanling Tian ignoring him. His words were filled with ruthlessness. Duanling Tian was taken aback when he heard Jian Xiaoping's words. He turned to look at the soldiers of the Black Dragon Army. He didn't expect that his subordinates had done so much for him without his knowledge. The centurion who was injured by Duanling Tian earlier stepped forward when he saw Duanling Tian looking at him. Sir Chiliarch, Centurion Jian Xiaoping came to our camp today and said that he will defeat you and replace you as our Chiliarch and teach us a lesson after that. However, we believe that Lord Chiliarch will never give him the chance to do so. The centurion's emotions were stirred up when he spoke. That's right. Lord Chiliarch, we believe in you. Lord Chiliarch, we believe that you won't give him the chance to replace you. After the centurion had stirred up the emotions of the Black Dragon Army, Duanling Tian's subordinates as well. All of them looked at Duanling Tian expectantly, anticipating the victory of their new Chiliarch. What nonsense are you talking about? Jian Xiaoping's expression changed drastically as he glared at the centurion under Duanling Tian's command. He did not expect Duanling Tian's subordinate would repeat his words in such a situation. After all, the commander of the Black Dragon Army was present as well. Although it was not taboo in the Black Dragon Army to seek revenge on one's subordinates, it was still despicable. At the very least, the commander of the Black Dragon Army would not sit idly by and do nothing. Jian Xiaoping, as expected, Chen Xianba, the commander of the Black Dragon Army, was furious when he heard Jian Xiaoping's words. He glared at Jian Xiaoping and asked in a deep voice, "Is what he said true?" "Commander, I was just joking with them." Jian Xiaoping hurriedly bowed and tried to salvage the situation. At this time, he also knew that he could not deny it. Duanling Tian's subordinates, the Black Dragon Army, could easily drown him with just a spit of saliva. Chen Xuanba snorted coldly as he looked at Jian Xiaoping coldly. Jian Xiaoping was so frightened that he broke out in cold sweat. Chen Xuanba turned to Qin Yu and said, "Captain Qin Yu, if Jian Xiaoping defeats Duanling Tian today and replaces him, you'll switch places with him. You'll take over Captain Duanling Tian's subordinates, and Jian Xiaoping will return to lead his old subordinates." "I'll follow your arrangements, Commander." Qin Yu replied immediately. "This, Commander actually made such an arrangement?" The Black Dragon Army soldiers in the Valley of the Ares God were stunned when they heard Chen Xuanba's arrangement. When they regained their senses, a commotion broke out again. It seems like even Commander Chen thinks highly of Centurion Jian Xiaoping. Isn't it obvious? If Commander Chen didn't think highly of Centurion Jian Xiaoping, why would he make such an arrangement? Lord Commander is planning to hand over Captain Duanling Tian's subordinates to Captain Qin Yu after Centurion Jian Xiaoping defeats Captain Duanling Tian and replaces him. He's doing this to prevent Centurion Jian Xiaoping from bullying his subordinates after he becomes the new captain of Duanling Tian. It seems like Captain Duanling Tian has no chance of winning today. Since Commander Chen doesn't think highly of Captain Duanling Tian, there's no doubt about the outcome of this battle. Now that Chen Xuanba had spoken to Qin Yu, other than Duanling Tian's subordinates, almost everyone in the Valley of the Ares God was certain that Duanling Tian would lose. If they had not seen Duanling Tian fight with their own eyes and heard Chen Xuanba's words, Even Duan Lingtian's subordinates would doubt Duan Lingtian's strength. However, even after hearing Chen Xuanba's words, they were still confident in Duan Lingtian's strength. With Captain Chen's strength, no matter how weak he is, he'll still be able to fight Jian Xiuping to a draw. Jian Xiuping is dreaming, if he wants to be our captain. Captain Chen's strength is definitely not below Jian Xiuping's. Duan Lingtian's subordinates all looked at Duan Lingtian. They were blindly confident in Duan Lingtian. Replace me and take care of my men? Duan Lingtian was stunned when he heard the words of the centurion he had injured. When he looked at Jian Xiuping again, his eyes were cold. Jian Xiuping. In the next moment, Duan Lingtian's body swayed. He seemed to have transformed into an eagle as he soared into the sky. At the same time, he looked at Jian Xiuping coldly and shouted, "I'll give you 3 breaths to prepare. You can use all the techniques you have at your disposal. After 3 breaths, if I, Duan Lingtian, can't defeat you in 1 move, I, Duan Lingtian, will give up my position as captain of the Black Dragon Army." Duan Lingtian's voice was so cold that it seemed to cause the temperature in the surroundings to drop by a few degrees. Most of the Black Dragon Army soldiers in the Valley of the Ares god felt as though winter had arrived. As soon as Duan Lingtian finished speaking, the crowd fell silent. Chapter 2603. Jian Xiuping. I'll give you 3 breaths to prepare. You can use all the techniques you have at your disposal. After 3 breaths, if I, Duan Lingtian, can't defeat you in 1 move, I, Duan Lingtian, will give up my position as the captain of the Black Dragon Army. Duan Lingtian's cold voice reverberated in the Valley of Ares. The entire place fell silent. His voice lingered in the ears of the people in the Valley of Ares for a long time. Everyone, including Commander Chen Xianba of the Black Dragon Army, and the other main character today, Centurion Jian Xiuping, were shocked by Duan Lingtian's words. It took them a long time to regain their senses. This was because Duan Lingtian's words were too terrifying. Captain Duan Lingtian, did I really underestimate him? Chen Xianba was the first to regain his senses. When he looked at Duan Lingtian again, a hint of doubt flashed in his eyes. As the commander of the Black Dragon Army, he had his own judgment. Although Duan Lingtian's actions seemed arrogant, when he observed Duan Lingtian carefully, he discovered that Duan Lingtian was confident. Duan Lingtian exuded confidence from head to toe. This level of confidence was not something an ordinary person could possess. It was impossible for someone who was deliberately mystifying to have such confidence. This was Chen Xianba's judgment. Ha ha ha. Ha 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 ha. Chen Xianba was still looking at Duan Lingtian in shock when Jian Xiuping, who had just regained his senses, burst out laughing. It was as though he had just heard the funniest joke in the world. Jian Xiuping's laughter caused the others in the Valley of Ares to regain their senses as well. Captain Duan Lingtian, he said he's going to defeat Centurion Jian Xiuping in 1 move? My God. Is he joking? Defeat Centurion Jian Xiuping in 1 move? Lord Commander is probably the only person in the Black Dragon Army who has the ability to do so, right? If he's really that strong, why would he be a captain in the Black Dragon Army? I feel that he's most likely just deliberately mystifying things. Perhaps he's using this as a psychological attack against Centurion Jian Xiuping. Psychological attack? Based on the current situation, Centurion Jian Xiuping isn't affected by his words at all. Most of the soldiers in the Black Dragon Army felt that Duan Lingtian was bluffing. They did not believe Duan Lingtian had the ability to defeat Jian Xiuping. Sir Chiliarch, this is... Although I believe that his strength is not below Jian Xiuping's, it seems impossible for him to defeat Jian Xiuping in 1 strike, right? Captain Duan Lingtian. He actually said that if he couldn't defeat Jian Xiuping in 1 go, he would give up the position of Chiliarch? Does he not want to be our Chiliarch that much? Even Duan Lingtian's subordinates were shocked by Duan Lingtian's words. Although they had confidence in Duan Lingtian, they were certain Duan Lingtian would not lose to Jian Xiuping. However, they did not expect Duan Lingtian to be so strong. They did not expect Duan Lingtian would be able to defeat Jian Xiuping in 1 move. If Jian Xiuping was just an ordinary centurion, who had not become a golden celestial, they believed Duan Lingtian would be able to defeat Jian Xiaoping in one move. However, not only was Jian Xiaoping not an ordinary centurion, but he was also a golden celestial who had been a chiliarch of the Black Dragon Army for a long time. Duan Lingtian was the only person in the entire Black Dragon Army who was capable of defeating Jian Xiaoping in one move. How arrogant! He's out of his mind. Other than Qin Yu and Zhao Dongxing, who only frowned slightly, Hu Ji and Kai Wenyu could not help but laugh out loud. When they found out Duan Lingtian was only a violet moon heavenly celestial, they had looked down on Duan Lingtian from the bottom of their hearts. However, Duan Lingtian had said he would defeat Jian Xiaoping in one move. Naturally, they did not believe him. As far as they were concerned, Duan Lingtian had simply lost his mind. Duan Lingtian. At this moment, Jian Xiaoping finally stopped laughing. He looked at Duan Lingtian with a hint of disdain in his eyes as he said, "You're just a violet moon heavenly celestial. There's no need for me to go all out to defeat you. I only need to use half of my strength to defeat a mere violet moon heavenly celestial." As soon as Jian Xiaoping finished speaking, the celestial origin energy that he had accumulated in his body surged out of his body like dragons that had escaped from their cages. As soon as they broke out of their cages, they were filled with fighting spirit, as if they had been injected with chicken blood. "Duan Lingtian, I don't even need to use my celestial weapon. I'll defeat you with just a swing of my staff." Jian Xiaoping's celestial origin energy surged out of his body as he rose into the air. At this moment, the dragon-like celestial origin energy that coiled around his body transformed into a pair of wings. It was a movement divine ability that he had mastered. He did not use the movement celestial technique he had mastered, since he did not think it was necessary. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. In the void, a sound that sounded like the wailing of ghosts and howling of wolves resounded. As Jian Xiaoping opened and closed his hands, the celestial origin energy that was swirling around his body quickly condensed into a long rod. It was obvious Jian Xiaoping was skilled in using a staff. "Staff quaking mountains and rivers," Jian Xiaoping cried out. He was not far away from Duan Lingtian. With his current speed, it would only take him a blink of an eye to catch up to Duan Lingtian. Buzz! 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 As soon as Jian Xiaoping finished speaking, the long rod formed from his celestial origin energy tore through the air as he charged toward Duan Lingtian. It was as though his rod was capable of shaking the heavens and the earth with just one strike. With Jian Xiaoping's strength, he can easily defeat a violet moon heavenly celestial with just a swing of his staff. Jian Xiaoping's staff contains the profundity of celestial methods and divine abilities. The staff quaking mountains and rivers is a combination of his celestial methods and divine abilities. Its strength is not to be underestimated. Captain Hu Ji and Kai Wenyu, who were standing behind Chen Xianba, the commander of the Black Dragon Army, looked at Jian Xiaoping, who was charging toward Duan Lingtian, with a hint of admiration in their eyes. At this moment, they could already see Duan Lingtian being defeated by Jian Xiaoping. "I'd like to see what makes you think you can defeat Jian Xiaoping with just a swing of your hand," Chen Xianba muttered to himself as he stared at Duan Lingtian. In his field of vision, Duan Lingtian's expression remained calm, even though Jian Xiaoping had not unleashed his full strength. It was as if Jian Xiaoping's ferocious attack was nothing in his eyes. At this moment, Chen Xianba, who was staring at Duan Lingtian, saw a hint of disdain in Duan Lingtian's eyes. At this moment, Jian Xiaoping's staff was already charging toward Duan Lingtian, with a force that could shake mountains and rivers. He was getting closer and closer to Duan Lingtian. In the end, he was only a foot away from Jian Xiaoping. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. At this critical moment, the sound of a sword whistling in the air rang in the air. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, dazzling sword rays suddenly bloomed from all over Duan Lingtian's body. These sword rays seemed to have flashed out from every pore on his body. There were countless of them. With a rough look, there were at least 10,000 of them. Everyone in the Valley of Ares was attracted by the dazzling sword rays that shot out of Duan Lingtian's body. Bang! A loud, muffled sound was transmitted into everyone's ears like the beating of a drum. Boom! 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 Accompanied by thunderous explosions, the Valley of the War God was swept up by a tyrannical gale, causing some of the weaker soldiers of the Black Dragon army to squint their eyes. Under everyone's watchful eyes, a gigantic sword had appeared under Duan Lingtian's feet. This gigantic sword was formed from the thousands of sword rays that shot out from Duan Lingtian's body. It hovered under his feet like a sturdy wall and blocked Jian Xiaoping's ferocious and powerful staff attack. Jian Xiaoping's hands shook violently as he smashed his staff against the gigantic sword under Duan Lingtian's feet. Wah! When the long rod formed by his celestial origin energy dissipated, he was sent flying like an arrow released from a bow. While he was being sent flying, he spat out a large mouthful of blood, in an extremely sorry state. His blood splattered in the air. Duan Lingtian, I want you dead. I want you dead. Just as everyone present was completely stunned by the scene in front of them, Jian Xiaoping roared from the depths of his throat, after his figure was shaken to a halt. His eyes were filled with humiliation and anger. It was as though he could burn everything. Whoosh! 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 A ghostly wail rang in the air. Whoosh! 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 When Jian Xiaoping attacked again, not only did he take out his celestial artifact, the long staff, but he also cast the assist-type divine ability that he had not used before. It raised his celestial origin energy to a whole new level. Then, he cast his offensive technique again, staff shaking mountains and rivers. It was the same technique, but this time, it was completely different from before. Jian Xiaoping attacked with all his might. The celestial weapon staff in his hand shot out like a towering pillar. At this moment, it felt as though heaven and earth were about to be destroyed. Bang! Finally, the celestial weapon long rod in his hand landed on the gigantic sword that was hovering under Duan Lingtian's feet like a sturdy barrier. The force of the staff that could shake mountains and rivers surged out once again. Chapter 2604. Bang! When Jian Xiaoping's celestial weapon, the long rod, landed on the gigantic sword formed by the sword formation under Duan Lingtian's feet, an earth-shattering explosion reverberated in the air. Many of the Black Dragon Army soldiers with a weaker cultivation base felt a piercing pain in their eardrums. Whoosh! 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 As the sound of the collision reverberated in the air, ripples began to spread out from the gigantic sword beneath Duan Lingtian's feet. It was as if a huge rock had landed on the surface of a calm lake, causing circles of ripples. The ripples were especially vivid. Boom! 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 Ripples spread out in all directions in the void. At the same time, waves of vibrating power swept out in all directions. When the shockwaves shrouded the Black Dragon Army's soldiers in the Valley of Ares, many of them retreated. It was obvious they were under great pressure. Otherwise, they would not have reacted in such a manner. Is Centurion Jian Xiaoping using all his strength? Centurion Jian Xiaoping is attacking with all his might. When the Black Dragon Army's soldiers in the Valley of Ares thought of this, they turned to look at the sky above the first battle arena in unison. When their gazes landed on the scene in the void, they were completely dumbfounded. In the vast void, a purple-robed young man stood on a giant sword like a deity. Below him, Jian Xiaoping's hands were bleeding profusely as he gripped the celestial staff tightly. That was not all. Currently, Jian Xiaoping was forced to take more than 10 steps back. His face was pale as though a storm was brewing. Barf! Sensing the surrounding gazes, Jian Xiaoping, who was originally still stubbornly holding on, finally could not help but open his mouth and spit out a large mouthful of blood once again. His blood splattered in the air, causing many of the Black Dragon Army's soldiers to tremble. This Duan Lingtian Chiliarch has not made a move since the beginning. All he did was defend. Yet, he managed to put Centurion Jian Xiaoping into such a sorry state. It's one thing for Centurion Jian Xiaoping to be at a disadvantage, because he didn't use his full strength earlier. This time, Centurion Jian Qiuping attacked with all his might and anger. But he still couldn't hurt Chiliarch Duan Lingtian at all? And he's injured again. Oh my god. How can this Duan Lingtian Chiliarch be so strong? In the Valley of the Ares, some of the Black Dragon Army soldiers who had recovered from their shock looked at Duan Lingtian in shock and disbelief. Previously, the commander of the Black Dragon Army did not think highly of Duan Lingtian, the new captain of the Black Dragon Army, so they thought Duan Lingtian would definitely lose. But no one expected that. The outcome was actually so unexpected. Jian Qiuping, a veteran Chiliarch of the Black Dragon Army, could not even break through the defense of this new Chiliarch. One could only imagine the strength of this new Chiliarch. Sir Chiliarch is so strong. Oh my god. This really our Chiliarch? I'm not dreaming, am I? Based on the Chiliarch's current strength, I'm afraid even Chiliarch Huang Jibing is no match for him. When the Black Dragon Army soldiers under Duan Lingtian recovered from their shock, they were also shocked by the strength that Duan Lingtian had displayed. Apart from being shocked, they were also overjoyed. In the future, with such a Chiliarch protecting them, they would be able to do whatever they wanted in the Black Dragon Army. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. At the same time, many of the Black Dragon Army soldiers shifted their attention to Duan Lingtian's subordinates. A hint of envy and jealousy could be seen in their eyes. The reason for their envy and jealousy was similar to the reason why Duan Lingtian's subordinates were overjoyed. Who is he? Why is he here in the Black Dragon Army? Chen Xianba, the commander of the Black Dragon Army, stared at Duan Lingtian with a burning gaze. He knew even he might not be able to block Jian Qiuping's attack so easily with just a defensive technique. Chen Xianba was completely stunned by Duan Lingtian's defensive technique. How's this possible? Isn't he a Violet Moon Heavenly Celestial? Hu Ji and Kai Wenyu, who were standing behind Chen Xianba, looked at each other when they regained their senses. They could see the shock and disbelief in each other's eyes. How powerful! The other two captains, Qin Yu and Zhao Dongxing, were shocked when they looked at Duan Lingtian again. They were also shocked by Duan Lingtian's strength. Is this all you've got? Under everyone's watchful eyes, Duan Lingtian stood on the gigantic sword formed by the sword formation with his hands clasped behind his back. He looked like a high and mighty emperor, as he looked down at Jian Qiuping, who was injured by him again. Jian Qiuping's heart skipped a beat when he heard Duan Lingtian's voice. When he looked at Duan Lingtian again, it was as though he had just seen a devil. His eyes widened, and his expression changed drastically. I admit defeat. I admit defeat. I admit defeat. Although Jian Qiuping could not figure out how Duan Lingtian was so powerful, he did not have time to think about it. He hurriedly admitted defeat, so he could leave this person in front of him as soon as possible. At this moment, face, honor, and disgrace had been tossed to the back of his mind. All he knew was that if this battle continued, he would only be tortured. He had attacked with all his might, but he could not even break through Duan Lingtian's defense. There was no need for him to continue this battle. Take this. If you don't die, I'll allow you to admit defeat. Duan Lingtian only glanced at Jian Qiuping indifferently when he saw Jian Qiuping admitting defeat. It was as though he was a high and mighty emperor who was giving out a supreme order. At the same time, the gigantic sword formed by the sword formation under Duan Lingtian's feet rose into the air and released a dazzling sword ray. This gigantic sword ray was formed by the tens of thousands of sword rays in the sword formation. As soon as it shot out, everyone in the Valley of Ares could feel the sharp sword chi emanating from it. No. Jian Qiuping's expression changed drastically when he heard Duan Lingtian's words. He finally realized something. Duan Lingtian wanted to kill him. You can't kill me. There are rules in the Black Dragon Army. Unless there's a life and death agreement, the soldiers of the Black Dragon Army are not allowed to kill each other. If you kill me, you'll be violating the rules of the Black Dragon Army. You'll be severely punished by the Black Dragon Army. Jian Qiuping looked at Duan Lingtian in horror as he roared hysterically. When he mentioned the rules of the Black Dragon Army, it was as though he had found a straw to clutch at. Boom, boom, boom. However, Duan Lingtian's reply to Jian Xiuping was the gigantic sword that seemed to blot out the sun. The gigantic sword was not pointed at Jian Xiuping. Instead, it was aimed at Jian Xiuping. However, when the gigantic sword descended, it was as though a gigantic mountain had fallen. At the same time, it locked onto Jian Xiuping. It was as though it would follow him wherever he went until it suppressed him. Naturally, Jian Xiuping wanted to escape. However, he soon discovered that he had been locked onto by the gigantic sword. There was no way for him to escape. He could only take the attack head-on. However, how could he possibly take the attack in his current state? Not to mention that he had already been injured twice. Even if he was in his peak condition and attacked with all his strength, he was doomed to die under this sword. The power contained in the giant sword that came crashing down had completely exceeded the scope of what he could withstand. Boom, boom, boom. The gigantic sword continued to descend. Its wide body continued to envelop Jian Xiuping, as though it was trying to suppress him. No, no. Lord Commander, save me. Lord Commander, save me. In just a blink of an eye, the gigantic sword had traversed more than half the distance and was right above his head. Jian Xiuping's eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. He immediately turned to look at Commander Chen Xianba of the Black Dragon Army and cried for help. However, Chen Xianba did not move at all. It was as though he was stunned by the scene before him. Bang! Finally, when Jian Xiuping's eyes were filled with despair, the giant sword that looked like it had been thrown by a god landed on Jian Xiuping's body. The terrifying power caused Jian Xiuping's body to explode into a bloody mist. Only a long staff and a ring were left in the bloody mist. They were Jian Xiuping's celestial weapon and spatial ring. Whoosh! Whoosh! When Jian Xiuping was killed by the gigantic sword, Duan Lingtian, who was hovering in the air, raised his hand. Jian Xiuping's celestial weapon and spatial ring flew into his hand before he put them away. The Valley of Ares once again fell into a deathly silence. After a while, the people in the Valley of Ares finally regained their senses. Gasp! 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 When the people regained their senses, they gasped in unison. When they looked at Duan Lingtian again, a hint of respect could be seen in their eyes. Even the four captains standing behind Chen Xianba were no exception to this. The two captains, Hu Ji and Kai Wenyu, looked at Duan Lingtian in awe. However, a hint of remorse could be seen in their eyes at the same time. They regretted not recognizing Mount Tai. At the same time, they hated Jian Xiuping, who was killed by Duan Lingtian. If Jian Xiuping had not misled them, they would not have alienated Duan Lingtian, because they thought he was just a violet moon heavenly celestial. Captain Duan Lingtian, that you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.